Hey everybody, today on Rahdo Runs Through, I am rounding up the month of January 2026. And, whoo boy folks, the year is not off to a very good start, I'm afraid to say, depending on where you live in the world. Things are going very well here in Ireland. Things are on the up, so that's nice. But I'm not here to talk about geopolitics and the state of things on our planet. I'm here to tell you about board games. And I've got a whole bunch to talk about today in my normal roundup format, where I do it as a countdown. I start out the list with my least favorite game of the month, and I end up with a new game of the month, something to celebrate. But before we get to the countdown, folks, I want to do a quick shout out because in January, newsman Eric Martin, he's been the head news honcho of Board Game Geek, my favorite website in the world, Board Game Geek. I am a Board Game Geek. He's been doing their news for over a decade, and he is now branching out to run his own independent board game news website. It is called Board Game Beat. There's a link for it down in the show notes. And I just wanted to say congrats to Eric and thank you to Eric for all the work he's done over the years. And I just wanted to give everybody an idea of what's here at Eric Martin's Board Game Geek, at Board Game Geek. That's going to be tough for me. Board Game Beat. BoardGameBeat.com. Well, it's pretty much what we've come to expect from Eric over the years. Really in-depth, well-written stories about all kinds of things going on in the board game world. Hey, would you like to know about the new Code Games expansion pack? Well, let's see. He's already got an archive of stuff. Would you like to hear about his 60 Minutes in Nuremberg, where he's going to tell you, hey, this is the first place in the world you're going to hear about games like Mythologies and Dragon's Overload and the Dungeon Cube and whatnot. Have you heard about these elsewhere? No, you haven't. Eric has always got his finger on the pulse, and he is the first place to stop to get information. And as I understand it, Eric is going to be giving us multiple reports every week about all the newest, latest stuff going on in the board game industry. He's going to be having videos like he's been doing for years. And here's the important thing, folks. This is what I wanted to show you, because Eric, if I could give you one bit of feedback, putting your subscribe button down here in the bottom right corner, which literally covers up important stuff like I can't see what's underneath here as I'm scrolling around to look at all the different topics. Maybe you should move the subscribe button up here to the top of the page, which is blank on every page. But anyway, it's an important button because you might be thinking, well, it was great when I was getting my board game news on Board Game Geek because I subscribed and it was just part of my Board Game Geek feed. Here's the deal, folks. Come to this page, subscribe, and all you gotta do is type in your name and your email address. And you can get all the news for free, totally for free, and they'll just show up in your inbox. You can either get them every time he posts one, you'll get an email about it, or you can get a once a week, month, or a weekly summary of all the news, and you'll never miss a beat at Board Game Beat, and it doesn't cost you a penny. And knowing Eric, I am certain he is not intending to sell your data for big cash. Instead, the way he plans on making his living, besides ads on the pages, are, well, you can just get the basic news and be able to comment on his blogs if you're a basic subscriber, and that costs you nada. But if you're willing to pay a little bit of scratch, you can start getting extra stuff. You can engage in polls. You can get audio versions read by Eric, so you can turn this website into a podcast. You can get behind the scenes stuff. You can get all kinds of things. You can even get physical goodies if you back at a high enough level. I am already a member, so I should just go on ahead and sign in. Okay, that's been taken care of, and now I've got my little profile thingy here in the bottom right corner instead of the big subscribe button. Although again, it's covering stuff up, Eric. Why isn't it just up here in this empty space? I don't understand. You're a fantastic newsman, Eric. Let me just say. But anyway, you can get a lot of value, and you'll never miss anything if you subscribe. So, if you like keeping your finger on the pulse of board gaming, or if you just like Eric as much as I do. He's a great guy. He has been a pillar of the board game world for years, and I wish him all the success in the world. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to do a quick shout out to Board Game Beat, which honestly, I don't know if I'm going to come to this page very often to see the ads because I'm already getting all the great stuff in my inbox. But I don't know, maybe I'll back on one of the higher levels. And of course, he's also going to be putting videos up too and stuff like that. So good luck on your brave new venture, Eric. I am excited to see what you come up with next. And with shout outs out of the way, folks, before we get to the countdown, I've got one more topic. All the exclusives that backers of the show, either at patreon.com/Rahdo or here on YouTube as members, got to see in the month of January. This is just my way of sponsoring myself, letting you folks know that for pennies a day, you can get all kinds of additional content. So, what did the backers get as exclusives? Oh, a whole bunch of full gameplay run-throughs from start to finish. We've got Moon Colony Bloodbath. We've got Rewild South America. We've got Twin Star Valley, Walking in Osaka, 108 Outlaws. We've got Jisogi, Anime Studio Tycoon. That's a lot of fun gameplay. But in addition to that, what else did I do? Oh, I did another Q&A, took questions from backers of the show, and I had two really big topics I dived deep into. One, was 2025 a drop in overall game quality? But even more so, I spent time trawling through the user reviews of games and basically getting into virtual arguments, and it caused me to question my faith in humanity. Some of these things I saw and then I had to call into question, and that was all to answer one of your questions. Yikes, that was practically threw me into an existential crisis of confidence in the state of the world by looking at what people say about board games. Oh, there are some silly people out there. What else? Oh, I did another ramble where I talked about 103 upcoming games and expansions that we should be able to get our hands on this year in 2026. This was an extension of my yearly top anticipation list, which I put up on New Year's Day. I did 26 games there, and then I had 103 more to tell you about. And let's see. Oh, and then of course I did my Jen Jog with my wife Jen, which is the companion piece to this. I'm going to tell you what I think about all the games we played. She'll tell you about what she thought of all the games we played. She's got 2 potential Year of the Candidates she played this month in January. So it was a very fun Jen Jog as well. And as always, she surprised me mightily. Okay, self-promotion out of the way, promotion of other people out of the way. It is time to let you folks know what I thought about 18 games that I played in January, although some of these were played actually in December, and I'm only just now getting around to talking about them. So, let's get to it, folks. Let's start with number 18 on the list, Flamecraft Duals. And now I gotta say, first of all, this game is drop dead gorgeous. This might be the best produced, most beautiful looking game that came out in 2025. The quality of the components, the amazing art, the presentation, the board game box is magnetically, it has this cool little metal clasp on it, and when it opens, it becomes the board, and then there's magnets that hold it all together, and you lift up the sides to get stuff out. It's stunning. It's stellar. It makes me want to play the game, even though I clearly didn't like it very much because it's my least favorite game of the month. But what is it? This is an abstract, a tile laying game. You reach into a bag every turn. You draw out a, what do you call it? Little Bakelite tiles that have cool little dragon art. It's one of 6, or maybe it was 7 different dragons. They all have different powers that let you manipulate the board. You put it somewhere on the board, and then you look to see, at any given time, you have 2 secret goals where you're trying to get different combination of chips lined up in certain patterns, and if you did that, you score 1 or more cards. Then you draw a new one, and then it's the other player's turn. This is a 2-player only game, a battle of wits, where we're constantly putting out tiles, manipulating the board, and trying to get it to work for us. I kind of liken it to a very simple, almost gateway level, streamlined Tashkalar, if you remember that one from many years ago. That was a great game. And this is basically like Tashkalar for intro gateway gamers. And I can't deny that it is a solid design, but I personally don't like it because there's no two ways about it. When you play this game competitively, luck is going to play a huge factor or who wins or who loses. This is the ultimate tactical game. It's all but impossible to do any long-term planning because I don't know what you're going to do on your turn. I don't know how you're going to mess stuff up because I don't know what it is you're trying to achieve because everything is secret. And then I don't know what tile I'm going to draw until it's my turn. I don't understand why at the very least they don't do the thing where, hey, after your turn is over, go into the bag, draw the tile so you could be thinking about what you want to do while your opponent is taking their turn. Why wait until the start of my turn and then draw the tile and then have to puzzle it out? Because this game can get super puzzly. And yet, in spite of how much brain power you think, puzzling out what the ideal thing to do is to score something now or try to set yourself to score something later if you can't score something now, it still could all be for naught because your opponent, for reasons and totally impossible to predict, might radically change the layout of the board. So it's always forget about the two birds in the bush. I'm just trying to use this one tile I've got to score something right now because who knows what's going to happen next turn. So there are definitely some things that could have made me like this game a lot more. Like I said, draw your tile at the end of your turn so you could be thinking about it while your opponent is going. That would just help speed the game up overall. Although to be fair, it's a pretty quick game anyway. It's the ultimate restaurant game. Hey, I've made my order, we've got our orders, and now we can play a game, maybe even two, before our food shows up, depending on the restaurant. Anyway, that would be a great way to improve it. But here's the thing, folks. I said it was a two-player game. It also has a solo mode. And if I were evaluating this game as a solo experience, which, by the way, is what I'm showing on screen, I did a solo run-through of the game for backers of the show, right? Actually, it's in February. People will get to see my solo run-through along with some other stuff. Anyway, though, I did this solo run-through, and I was blown away by it. I think this is a phenomenal solo game because everything I just complained about, how everything is just pure random luck and you can't really do any kind of strategizing, all of a sudden you can because there's nobody else messing up the board. And the game actually puts you under a lot of pressure because you will lose if you can't score cards every single turn, no matter what. And that can be tough to pull off. And then you do have to start making, okay, well, I'll put this over here. I'll use its power to move these things over here so I can score something right now. But I'm also potentially setting myself up to score something next round well. And yeah, I can even score a second thing this round, but I don't want to. I've got to save stuff because next round I might be stuck with cards I can't score. So it's good to ensure that I set myself up so I can always be scoring something every round. It puts you under a lot of pressure. You really feel tension, and it's an incredibly fun, puzzly little game with amazing production values. And all of a sudden, I love it. I love it. If I were evaluating this as a solo game, this would probably be in my top 5 experiences of the month. It's that good. But the two-player experience, I did not enjoy at all. My wife liked it. She's a little bit more forgiving, one, of abstract games, and two, of just random luck fests. But the luck factor, I mean, I'm not saying skill doesn't play a part, but if you and your opponent are even moderately at the same skill level, you might as well just do rock, paper, scissors to spend the time because the outcome is that luck-based. And here's why this game is heartbreaking for me, folks. That solo mode could so easily be transplanted into a two-player co-op mode. And then this would have been one of the 10 best games I played this month easily. That same rule of you lose if you can't score something every single turn, just put that rule into the two-player game. And now we have to survive to the end, and I might make a move so I can score a thing on my turn. You say, no, don't do that. Then I won't be able to score my thing on my turn. And, okay, well, you know what? I can score this. What do you need? Oh, you know, I've got this red. You know, if you could do that. And then you and I could be puzzling out together how to optimize the game for both of us. And suddenly it becomes a very crunchy puzzle that two people work on together. It would work so well. I cannot understand why the developers didn't throw into the rulebook by the way, here's how you can play the game co-op. And I guarantee you, If they had, everybody would choose to play this game cooperatively instead of competitively, because it would instantly become an amazeball games that would stand toe-to-toe with Harmonies, which was, this game obviously I think takes some inspiration from Harmonies. It was a huge hit a couple of years ago. Did it win the Spiel des Jahres or did it just get nominated? I don't remember. But this game would beat Harmonies if they had done the simplest extra tiny bit of design work to transplant that solo pressure and strategy into a two-player co-op experience. This could be, it's been my favorite game of the month. I don't know. Here's hoping that the publishers and the designer, Manny Vega, who's a very talented designer, hears my plea and gives it a little bit of thought and releases an official variant saying, by the way, here's how you can play Flamecraft Duals as a co-op game. Because I think it would at that point be something really, really special. At least I say that based on how much I enjoyed the solo mode for number 18 of the month, Flamecraft Duals. Okay, folks. All right, now let's talk about number 17 of the month, Agent Avenue, which I have not done any kind of video coverage on myself, so thanks very much to the board game channel Board Games Unboxed. They did a very nice looking video showing off this two-player battle of wits that's taken straight out of The Princess Bride. It's the whole Vicini poison cup. Well, I know I cannot take the cup that that old mind game bluffing type thing. It's a really clever design. I really respect it. How does it work? Well, at any given time, players have a hand of 4 cards that represent making progress or setbacks on our chase of each other. Each player has a little meeple, and we're on this little circular board, and we're trying to move clockwise faster than the other player can move clockwise on the board, because if I can catch up with you and catch you, I win. But if I don't move forward, or maybe I start moving backwards and you move forward, then you'll catch up with me. And how do we move forward, or occasionally backwards? Well, every turn we're going to get one card that says how far we're going to move forward or backward. And of course, you want to move forward as fast as you can. So just always play those cards. It's not that simple, because here's what happens. On my turn, I've got 4 cards. I look at them, I think long and hard, I try to get into your brain, and then what I ultimately do is I take 2 of those cards, I put one face up and the other one face down on the table, and then you pick which one you want. And then I get the other one, and then we resolve, and we keep going till somebody catches the other person. And that's it. There's a few more rules, but it's so simple and elegant. And let the mind battle begin. Because, of course, I put these 2 things down, and I put something down face up that's very nice. And you say, oh, well, I should totally take that. But if that is so nice, what must the other thing be? Am I bribing you to take this so that I can get the face down thing for myself? Because that one's even better? Maybe. So maybe you think, well, you're not going to fool me. You'll take the face down one. But what if I know you're going to think that, and I've put basically a time bomb in there that's going to screw you over? And then you'll end up taking it, and you'll fall back, and I'll end up catching you. Well, you can't afford to take that chance. So do you take the obvious one? But that face-up one is so good, there's no way I'd give that up. Who knows? Maybe they were both really good. And so I had to put one face down and face up. You don't know. Good luck getting into my head and figuring out when I'm going to zig instead of zag. That's the whole game right there. Well, I should say that's the whole game if you're playing the base game. One thing is, the more players get of a certain card, if you get the Sentinel card, it does something the first time. But if you get a second Sentinel card, it changes. It becomes more powerful. And so, if I don't have any Sentinel cards and you've got one Sentinel card, me putting a face-up Sentinel card is even more tricky, because that card's not very good for me because it'd be my first. But being your second, it's going to be even better for you. So you've got to take that into account when you're trying to figure out, am I bluffing? Am I hiding something really good? Or am I tricking you hoping you'll take something really bad? Maybe they're both really bad. If the one face up is a terrible card that you would never take in a million years, what must the other one be? If I'm leaving that for myself. All that kind of fun stuff. So that's all good. I like that. I like bluffing. I like taking chances. But I should say, my wife does not. She actively I mean, I think she said she would never want to play this game again because she just can't stand trying to get into the mind of somebody else. And generally speaking, it's very, very easy for me when we're playing a game like this together to read her, and she can't read me, and it's very frustrating for her. So this does not work for her, and that's too bad because I do enjoy it. For myself, I would actually rank it quite a few steps higher, but considering my wife will never play this game with me again, there's no reason for me to keep it. So that's why it comes in at the bottom, or the next to the bottom of the list. The way I rank all these games is very simple, folks. Would I keep this game? Would I keep game A or game B in my collection? And this is being at number 17 means there were 16 games I'd rather have more. I would happily play Agent Avenue with anybody, anytime, anywhere, but since my wife doesn't want to play it, it's no good to me. Now, I should say, all that said, everything I just described is very good and very sharp and very clever. But then there's something else. You can play in an advanced mode where there are 3 special power cards out that we're trying to grab that will, give us one-time boosts or ongoing powers that like change the function of other cards, all kinds of things that really mix it up and takes it to the next level. How do we win these cards? This is the most brilliant thing about this game. At each of the 4 corners of the board that we're chasing each other around on, whenever we play cards, there are these little agent spots. And if on a given turn, you can move the exact number of steps to land exactly on one of those 4 spaces, you can grab one of those special powers. And that is one of the greatest design tricks of all time. Reiner Knizia came up with this mechanism a billion years ago with Carcassonne the Castle, which, by the way, is the best version of Carcassonne that ever existed, because in that game, if you got the exact number of points, like I can see, there's one of these special spots on the victory point board. If I could score exactly 3 points and move exactly 3 to land on that spot, I'll get that bonus. So even though I could be building up for this big 15-pointer, I don't care about that. Right now, I'm trying to figure out how to score 3 points so I can hit that spot. Again, maybe easily one of the top 5 most brilliant design mechanisms I've ever seen. And it's almost never, ever been replicated in the last, 15 years since Reiner Knizia came up with that. So any game that is designer, that is smart enough to do that, and like I said, there are very few. Stefan Dora did one a few years ago, and maybe there's another one, but that elevates the game so much because now I put a card out face up that maybe it's not very good. Maybe it's only going to let you move 1 step. But looking where you are on the map, I know if you move 1 step, you'll get one of those special powers. And if I'm giving you that, what must be under the face down that I'm keeping for myself? It just elevates the experience to the stratosphere. This is typically called I split, you choose, because I'm picking, I'm dividing things up and deciding if somebody else is going to take them. This extra level of bluffing and mind games is brilliant. But the targeted scoring system is what's truly magnificent here. And every time I see it, and I very, very rarely see it in games, but every time I see it, I just find myself wondering, why isn't this a mainstay of every game that ever existed that had a victory point track? Because it will instantly, all designers out there, you will instantly make your Euro game better if you do this. And it's child's play to do. If you want to see how impactful it is, play some of my number 17 of the month, Agent Avenue, and I think you'll agree. But sadly for me, because my only gaming partner in the world hates this kind of stuff, Agent Avenue comes in at number 17 of the month. Alrighty then. And now let's move on to number 16, Jisogi Anime Studio Tycoon. Jisogi Anime Studio Tycoon, which is a mouthful. And, wow, first of all, I gotta say, this is an incredibly strong thematic worker placement game. The theme drives everything in this game, and it's a theme that I was very predestined to love. Although, I like anime. Don't get me wrong. I'm not crazy about anime. I used to really dig it back in the day. Back when I saw Akira in its original American theatrical run at the Neptune Theater in Seattle, Washington. For a brief moment, I fell in love with anime, and I saw Laputa Castle in the Sky in the same theater. But, over time, my enthusiasm for anime has cooled. I think it's nice enough, but I'm just not into it the way I was when in my college years. But even if I'm not the biggest anime fan in the world, I was really stoked for this because I do love Euros that are about a group of people working together to make something creative. And that's in large part because I was a video game creative director myself for over 2 decades. That was my career before I became a board game media person. And while I don't think I could ever go back to that life, I'm too old for that belief. I do still kind of look back on it fondly. I tend to forget about all the stress and hardship and anguish and really just focus on, oh yeah, I really loved working with a group of artists and programmers and producers and writers and all of that stuff. It was a blast. It was so fulfilling for all of us to come together and make something bigger than any of us could do on our own. And me, as like the lead designer, creative director type, setting the focus and the direction for everybody was incredibly fulfilling. Even if all my games, some of them were huge hits, some were not, but still. So that's a subject matter I love. And I think it's perfect for board games, and we don't get very many of them. Like Pret-a-Porter is one of the all-time greats. Roll Camera is in my top 10 games of all time, in large part because I love not necessarily fashion making, although I do love movie making. I just love the idea of creatives working together. And so that's what we're doing here. We're trying to make, feature-length anime films. And it's through worker placement, which I will admit is not my favorite mechanism of all time. It's fine, but you got to do something special. Now, this game does do some very nice stuff with the worker placement. One, you don't get frozen out of spaces. If somebody else goes there, you can still go to the space you want. You just got to pay a little bit of extra money. We've seen that in a lot of games. What's better is you can actually either hire more employees, so you get to do more in a given year, and you're going to play through 4 years, make up to 4 animes. You can hire more, so you can do more stuff, or you can train your existing staff so they become better at their job and get special powers and all kinds of things. That's really nicely done. Again, we've seen this in other games, but it's done really well here. So there's a lot to recommend. It's a tight, fast worker placement game, incredibly thematically strong, and it's a subject matter that's near and dear to my heart. So why did it come in at number 16? I think more than anything else, this has to do with scaling for 2 players. Because here's the deal. At any given time, you've got whatever's hot right now, a type of film, a genre of film that is hot right now. You've got an upcoming hotness, and then you've got a trend in movie-going preferences that is on the way out. Right? And so when you are trying to have your artists, because you have workers that do art, you have workers that write, you have workers that produce, and you have workers that direct. And directors are wilds. They can do any of the other jobs. All the other jobs are limited to basically just doing what they do. Artists, they're going to art. Writers, they're going to write. Producers, they're going to produce. There's a little bit of flexibility with that because there's one action, strategize, that anybody could do. But that action can get gobbled up really quick. It's the only one that you can get frozen out of. If I really want to strategize with this, but somebody else does it first, I can't do it until next year. Nothing else can be denied you, but there's that one thing that can be denied you. So, what it tends to mean is that, most rounds, most games, your writers are just going to focus on writing. And there's 2 different spaces. They could do writing this way or they could do writing that way. There's 2 spaces for the artists. They could do writing this way or this way. There's 2 spaces for producers. They could do it this way or this way. And then there's that one extra space that anybody could do. But it means that, while there is lots of strategic maneuvering to do within the confines of this, you are still kind of in a very narrow bucket. Your artists are going to be doing this, your writers are going to be doing that, your producers are going to be doing that, your director's going to do various things as needed. Sometimes you'll strategize, but for the most part, you'll look at the state of the board and say, right, okay, that's the movie I'm going to make. I'm going to make it following that trend because I'm going to get those types of bonuses because there's these things available. And do we even have to take turns doing all this? Because really, the only difference making turns does is who has to pay the extra buck because somebody else sent their artist there first. Now, I should say, money is important in this game. This is a game all about accruing debt because at the end of every year, you got to pay your staff. The more staff you have, the more you've got to pay. And there's no getting around it. You will have to take loans that you have to pay off by the end of the game or you will lose points. And the longer you take to pay them off, the more it's going to cost to pay them off later because of rising interest. All this stuff is done great and it's all fine. But the thing is, as a 2-player game, there are an equal number of opportunities at 2 as there are with any other player count. And what Jen and I found is, because money is tight and because our workers are really kind of pigeonholed into doing very specific actions, which is incredibly thematic. And it's the thematic integration of this world that's trying to create into board game mechanisms is awesome. But it means, right, okay, I'm going to make this movie, I'm going to combine these elements, I'm going to do this art, and let's just go. In fact, I mean, at a two-player game, this game would almost be chillax and relaxing and laid back if it weren't for the fact that you're accruing debt. Although you know that as long as you do well, by the end of the game, you'll be making so much money. It's kind of Le Havre. You know, Le Havre, Uwe Rosenberg's classic. You know you've got to, the smartest move is to purposely take loans so that you can... diversify early and then just pay off your debt at the end. Same kind of vibe works here. And, it can be a little scary, but still, if you're going to play smart, you're going to be able to pay off all your loans. Don't worry. And if you don't, chances are your opponents won't either, so you'll all lose roughly an equal amount of points. So the thing is, because Jen and I found with money being tight and with our workers kind of almost being pre-programmed to do certain things because that's their job, what we would quickly get into is, right. Oh, I can see what you've grabbed over there. I can see that's what your writers are writing. That's the plot and the plot twist you're doing. Oh, then you're going to make a movie like that. I know that's what you're going to do. It's totally obvious. There's no hidden information here. I know that's exactly what you're going to do. So I see no reason for me to compete with you on that. Right, I'll just make this other movie over here. And you go your way, I go mine, and never the twain shall meet. We will not confound each other. We will not get in each other's way. Yeah, maybe you'll do the art first, but I'll just do it second and I'll pay an extra buck. That means I'm going to have to take an extra loan, but I'll pay them all off by the end of the game anyway. Don't worry about it. And it's just kind of... I'm not saying it plays on autopilot, don't get me wrong, because there are some elements that can make you zig instead of zag. Or, if zigging is the perfect thing, right? This is obviously what I should do, because I've only got these many workers, and I got to get this film in the can by the end of the year, so this is what I'm going to do. Oh, but you can get these special cards that might incentivize you to do different things. You can get workers that are incentivized to do certain things and not other things, or maybe they can branch out a little bit. There's a little bit of that. A smooch. And maybe that stuff is enough if you play at a higher player count that, I know I'm playing a 4-player now, and I'm not the only one making a sci-fi, I'm not the only one making Cowboy Bebop. As it turns out, because action and sci-fi are the hot upcoming genre. I can see you're doing it too. Well, maybe I need to change my plans because you're going to do better at that than I am. Or you're going to get it done before I do. So I'm not going to get the big bonus for, nailing that genre before you do. There's just as a 2-player game, there's too much at stake to directly compete with your opponent. When there's so much wide open stuff and it's so easy to say, oh, you're making Cowboy Bebop? That's fine. I'll make a Miyazaki style fantasy film. That's what I'll do. Or I'll make a sports comedy. Fine. You can make your thing. I'm not going to compete with you for that. I'm going to make my thing because there's no reason to risk losing the bonuses for beating you at that. If I were playing as a 4-player game, there's going to be competition everywhere. And all of a sudden, all that stuff that's out there, if there's somebody else trying to do the same thing as me, suddenly maybe I can't get that plot twist that I needed my writer to write. And I've got to change my plans. Maybe even not make a film at all this year. But as a 2-player game, just the world's your oyster. There's just infinite stuff, and it's not. I'm not saying it's not a challenging game. I mean, the game does make you make strong strategic decisions, but it just feels autopilot is too strong. But it just feels between the thematic constraints that are brilliant, but are still constraints that say, every turn my artist is just going to do art. Every time my writer's just going to do writers, and because I know that's usually what they're going to do. Usually, not always, they might strategize instead, but usually that's what they're going to do. And usually it's just a few bucks here or there, depending on whether I do it first or second. Yeah, I'll just do my thing, you'll do your thing, and there just wasn't much tension, which is odd because I've heard other reviewers say, oh man, this is a tense game. And I can only assume that's because they're playing at higher player counts than 2. I can say, what you're seeing on screen is I did an exclusive run through of it for backers of the channel, which I mentioned right up front. And that's me playing solo. And solo is interesting because solo comes up with, I forget what it is, there's like 6 or 8 different little missions you can play. That give you extra things you have to do. And to win the game, it's not that you just have to score more points than your opponent. You have to achieve this amount of stuff in the 4 years. Those get much more interesting. Having those, live or die, make you or break you challenges you have to do. Whereas just trying to score more points than my opponent, well, okay, I'm going to do my thing, you're going to do your thing at the end of the game, we'll just come back together and we'll see how well it worked out. So I can definitely say it's stronger as a solo game. I suspect, not having played it, that it's stronger when you have more competition at a higher player count game, but I'm only ever going to play this as a 2-player game. Which is why I thought, both Jen and I thought, well, yes, this is drop dead gorgeous. It has a lot of, my favorite design element of the game is probably the conveyor belt for bonuses that they start out valuable, and if nobody does them, they get less valuable, but if people still don't do them, then later in the game, they'll come back and they'll become more valuable again. That's kind of cool. I like the conveyor belt that tracks, audience trends. There's a lot of wonderful ideas here. The thematics of this game are beautiful and strong. It's just that as a 2-player game, I just did not feel the same level of tension that a truly great worker placement game makes me feel, where I'm just bouncing in my chair. Oh my God, I hope I get that action. I hope I get that. Oh no, I didn't. Now I gotta change everything. I gotta totally pivot. Here I never felt like I needed to pivot. Right, you're making your movie, I'm making mine. May the best studio win. And it's for that reason that as a 2-player game, Jisogi Anime Studio Tycoon comes in at number 16 of the month. Boy, it's so pretty though. Okay, let's move on. Okie dokie, let's move on to number 15, Naishi, which is a very, very pretty card game that I have not covered. So thank you to YouTube channel Erzabeth. They did a very, very nice introduction to the game that looks great. Although, if you're not a Polish speaker, I believe you'll have to turn on the subtitles to follow along. But again, thank you, Erzabeth. The link for their video is down in the show notes if you'd like to go check it out. What is this game about? Well, it's set in ancient Japan, and there's a lot of really clever stuff here. As part of setup, there are a bunch of cards in stacks in the middle of the board that we are going to be grabbing to try to build the ideal 5x2 grid of cards. We got a row of 5 cards and another row of 5 cards below. At the end of the game, all the cards we put in these 10 spots will score points based on their position, based on what they're next to, based on how many of them you have or how few of them you have, all kinds of stuff. Every type of card. I think there's like 9 different types of cards. They each have their own unique scoring about, location or proximity or set collection, all kinds of stuff. Now, at the beginning of the game, both of your rows are full of mountains, and mountains are going to lose you points. You want to explore those mountains and populate them with characters so that they will score points instead. So at the end of the game, you're looking at 10 mountains, although you do start with 2 cards that were given to you randomly that are something else. And those 2 will randomly be in your bottom row, but your top row is all mountains. And on your turn, usually what you're going to do is you're going to, you've got this row in front of you, that's called your line, and then you have your second row, but it's not in front of you, it's in your hand. You have a hand of 5 cards, and you can't move the cards around in your hand. Once they're shuffled up and they're in your hand, that's where they are. At the end of the game, you're going to take your 5 cards in your hand, you're going to lay them out on the table so that you can create your 5x2 grid. So half of all your stuff is public knowledge. Your opponent, and this is a 2-player only game, knows exactly what you got. The other half is kept secret. You'll only reveal it at the end of the game. And on your turn, you want to replace all these mountains with other cards. So if I see the perfect card, if I want that Sentinel, and it's in the 4th column in the central thing, I can grab that Sentinel and I can either replace the thing that's in my main line on the board in the 4th spot. I took it from the 4th spot, then I've got to put it in the 4th spot, or I can jettison a card from hand and put it in the 4th spot in my hand. So if I take it from the far left spot, it's that card goes into the far left spot in one of my 2 rows, my secret row or my public row. And so that's the big trick of this game, is that you are restricted because I want that card and I will have to put it in my far left space, but to get the most points out of it, I need it to be in my middle space. So I'm going to have to move it over, which is why you have additional actions that you you can do occasionally, which is letting you manipulate cards, swap them from place to place, or eliminate cards from the main row to get different ones drawn because you don't like see what you want isn't out there, so you can eliminate a couple of cards and and hopefully the ones you want come out, so you can draft them. Because I desperately need in that top left corner another guard tower, and I've just been looking for it because that's going to be perfect for me with my Sentinel and the way they combine and all that. And that just keeps going back and forth, until basically you've gone through all the cards. With players, for the most part, replacing cards either in their hand or in their line with cards from the supply, and then also basically doing kind of like a little simple worker placement game where you can send out you have 2 little worker chips to manipulate your line, or your hand, or move a card back and forth from your line to your hand, or manipulate the ones that are out on offer. Okay, I want that to be in that position. I'll use my worker to move it over there, and then I'll put it into this slot, and it'll be perfect, and it's going to score maximum points. So, everything about this is awesome. I love the puzzle I think the design of these cards that have to get, jigsaw puzzled together is fun. It's not overwhelming. There aren't too many of them. The iconography is very clear how they will score. And it's a really sharp idea. So why is it coming in so low at number 15? Well, it comes back to those little workers that, you can spend an action, every time you are going to move a new card into your environment, you can also deploy one of your workers to the side actions. And there's 3 actions you can choose from. The main one of just being able to manipulate things so I can get stuff into position, that's fine. That's great. That's good that that's there. The other one where you just blitz cards from the main recruitment line, I said before, you'll do that because you're looking for a card. Okay, I'm just going to dig through a deck so I can, find the card I'm looking for. That's one reason you'll do it. But there's another reason you'll do it. Because like I said, I can see the 5 of the 10 cards my opponent has. And oh my gosh, you put a Naishi in that spot. That's a 12-point card for you right there. Right? Well, there's another action I can do. I can literally steal that card from you and put it in my spot. Or I could take a card out of I could see you just took a card I wanted really bad, and I can see you put it in your second to the left, not the leftmost, but the second to the left in your hand. I'll use that power, and I will force you to swap that card you just took with one that's in that spot for me that I don't care about. And this game, unfortunately, features a fair amount of, I can see what you want to do. I'm not going to let you do that. Including, that card right there is perfect for you. I bet you've been looking for that card the entire game. It's the other horse you need to go with your bannerman. That'll be huge if you could pick that up. Too bad, I'm just going to use my little worker here, and I'm going to nuke it from orbit and just remove it from the game for no reason other than to spite you and ruin the thing you've been trying to do the whole game. Now, this is not a long game, but still, there are enough opportunities for you to really mess with your opponent, and they just don't need to be here at all. The fundamental puzzle here was so fun and so sharp that if those aggressive actions were replaced with other things, I could have seen this game being in my top 5 because I love the puzzle of putting this stuff together. But I don't love strategizing to ruin your ability to make your best line and have your most fun. That is not fun for me or Jen, both of us. We could barely finish a game of this because we just felt miserable the whole time saying, yep, there it is. I'm going to nuke that. Yep, too bad you don't get that. And then, okay, well, I'm going to nuke your thing too. Or, that's the card you want. I bet you really want that. Well, I'm just going to take that from you and give you a card you don't care about. Just garbage. Why is this stuff why do designers want to put this stuff in games? It is so ancient and old-fashioned, sorry style mechanisms. It just don't belong. There are much better ways to encourage interaction between players than just kicking down their sandcastle and stealing their stuff. But this game wants you to engage in that. And that's a shame because otherwise, like I said, Naishi'd probably be in my top 5 of the month, if not my top 10, because the puzzle element is great. It's just the take that ruined it for me and Jen. So sadly, it comes in at number 15. Oh, that's a heartbreaker. Okay, next up we've got number 14 of the month, For the Gods, which I'm not going to spend much time on here today because I am going to be doing a sponsored run-through of it when it goes live on crowdfunding in, I think, a couple of weeks from now. So, just to give you a quick flyby view of it, this is set in ancient Greece, or is it Rome? No, I'm pretty sure it's Greece, and we are basically bag building. We have a bag of chips. Every turn, we're going to pull 5 of them out, and these are multi-use chips. We can either use them, throw them back in the bag, to move our ship around from port to port on the cool-looking little map. Although I should say, folks, what I'm showing you is my run-through, which backers of the show get to see early, and this is an early prototype. The final version looks much cooler. It already looks nice, but oh my gosh, it's going to get such a huge makeover for the final version, which you'll see when it launches. Well, I think you can actually see what it looks like on the pre-launch page right now. Which I guess I'll put a link for that down in the show notes so you can go check out and get a better look at it. Anyway, though, we are either taking those chips and discarding them to sail from port to port to get where we need to go, because our other use for them is every turn we want to be taking those chips and building temples to the various gods in the various regions around the board. And this is an area majority game. At the end of the game, whoever's got the tallest temple in each region scores big points. But the first player to build in a region generally tends to get these favor of the god chips that you can often throw into the bag with everything else. Although every time you play, you're going to get a different combination of gods. I forget, there's like 9 or 10 or maybe 12 different gods, and you're going to get a different combo that radically change the feel of the game. These gods will give you the ability to teleport around or manipulate temples and make them taller than they would otherwise be, or swap them from place to place. All kinds of cool things. At the end of the game, we're going to evaluate every region. Whoever has the tallest temple there is going to score the points. Whoever scores the most points wins. At its heart, it's a very simple, clean, elegant, fast-playing game, which I think could be compared favorably to like an all-time classic like El Grande. But what's really special about this game is Jen and I enjoyed it. And I say that as two of the ultimate Care Bear players. I mean, heck, you just heard me talking about the last game, how we do not want to mess with each other. But in this game, I wouldn't go as far as say it's a Care Bear game, but it feels much more Care Bear friendly than most area control games. You never really mess with your opponent's stuff. You never steal things or break things. Actually, that's not true. There is one god, I think it's Ares, the god of war, who will literally let you steal stuff from your opponent. We would just never play with that. Instead, all the gods just give you the opportunity to build bigger, better, faster. And that's all we're trying to do. This is effectively a race game where we are, building up temples, but then going back and building them up when we get the right chips, because once you put a type of chip in a given area, you can only extend it with that type of chip. And so you might not have enough to make it taller. Somebody else might move into the same area as you. Now I got to sail back over there and make it bigger because that's a bigger scoring area. Or I might not care about that. I only went there just to be able to get the god power, and I don't care if you win because I'm trying to win in these other places. It's a great little game, and both Jen and I were surprised how much we enjoy it. Now, I will go into more depth about this when my actual run-through goes up, in time for the actual campaign. But suffice to say, it may not sound like we like it very much because it's coming in at number 14, but you got to understand, this is an area control battle dominance game. And for Care Bears like me and Jen, it coming in where it did, instead of being at the absolute bottom of the list, is a huge win. So for you who actually like area control, tactical, deployment, domination style stuff, this is a game you are definitely going to want to check out. But even if you would be predisposed not to enjoy this sort of thing, like Jen and I tend not to, it might surprise you as well. And it's coming in at number 14 of the month, For the Gods. More info coming soon. Okie doke. Now let's move on to number 13, Skybridge, which I have not covered, but I'm just grabbing a video from Click and Abend, who got a demo of it at Essen Spiel last year. That's where I picked it up, and Jen and I played it since then. And I gotta say, there's stuff I like, and there's stuff I don't like. Well, no surprise, since it came in at number 13. First of all, The fantasy world of Skybridge is really cool. The main planet is in a bad state. People are starving and angry, and rebellion is fermenting amongst the people. And what, as the leaders of this world, do we decide we're going to do to solve this? Well, we can see up in the sky a beautiful glowing moon full of life and greenery and resources aplenty that will feed everyone. And all we have to do is build a Skybridge up there. We just literally, in this, of course, across the rounds of this game, we are trying to collect resources so we can basically contribute to the building of the Great Skybridge, this big tower that can literally reach this moon. And every round, when players have the chance to do it, if enough stuff gets done, another piece of the Skybridge gets flipped as we get closer and closer. To our humanity's ultimate salvation. So, it's a really cool theme because actually we are living, where we're living is on the inside of a gigantic sphere, and as far as we know, the rest of the universe is nothing but stone that goes on forever, but then there's this one moon in the center. It's this really neat, high-concept fantasy world, and and it's certainly satisfying to see the bridge being built over the course of the game. In fact, actually, there's a trick of gravity. Once you build close enough to the bridge, we can literally be on that precipice of where gravity shifts and the moon will pull you towards it and away from the surface. And so you build up so far, but then, hey, we jump to the moon and start building in the other direction and ultimately connect it to and trigger the end of the game and all of that. So that's all really, really neat. And the mechanisms, for the most part, this is an engine building game, are nice as well. On your turn, there are there's 5 or 6 stacks of cards out there. You're going to grab one of those cards and add it to your hand. You're going to pick a card based on the cards you want to add to your engine of stuff you can do, but also the stack you take it from, each of those stacks has little bonuses next to them. So it's kind of an entwined drafting thing. Hey, I want that card, but I need that bonus. The bridge is going to get, if I can't contribute wood to this bridge right now, so I better come and grab that card because I'll get that little bonus I need right now or whatever it might be. Entwined drafting is always nice. But so first you grab a card and get some bonuses depending on where you took the card from. Then you're going to take one of the cards from your hand and you're going to add it to your little engine. You've got this row of cards that are in front of you, and you get to activate them all every turn. And if you're smart, you'll set it up so you've got some cards that generate the stuff that other cards consume, so you can do big actions and whatnot. And every turn you get to run your engine. Sometimes your engine is small because you've just got a few cards. Sometimes it's big. One of the things is, over time, you only have so many engine spots. As you grab more cards, you'll start covering up existing cards and changing the function of your engine because you got to keep playing these cards. And the interesting thing is, as you start to develop a stack of cards, the cards are, once they're covered up, they're useless unless you can turn one of those stacks into a scoring stack. And then certain types of cards in that stack will score. So you might be putting cards out, to try to make the ideal engine that will work well when you run it. But you're also thinking about, right, if this card eventually gets buried by another card, I want to put the same types of cards in the same stacks so that I could say, oh, that's the stack that scores for green cards. And that's where I've been putting most of my green cards, even if it wasn't the best thing for my engine. So there's a lot of cool mechanisms. And while the game is kind of a slow burn, because you never really get a super power, well, actually, sometimes, depending on the way the cards come out, you might have some turns that are really big and powerful, but for the most part, this is kind of a slow burn game. It's modest engine building with modest rewards, but it doesn't take that much to actually build the tower, so things just zip along at a good pace. So, all of this stuff I like. So, why is it ranked higher? Well, because of the one thing I don't like that really doesn't sit well with me. And that is, like I said, this is a barren, desolate planet we're living on, and the people are revolting. To borrow, is that Mel Brooks, I think? The peasants, they're revolting. The thing is, if you do not take good care of the people of your land, because you are the leader, if they go hungry, if you work them too hard, the meeples that you need for various things will eventually kind of abandon you and join the resistance movement, which is kind of this progress track, on the main board, and just off the main center where you draft all the cards from. And the more and more workers you lose, it's not that big a deal. Hey, they're just off processing, that's fine. But one of the actions you can do in this game is invest in your military. And this is not like you would think there's a war element, I've got to fight other people for their cards or area control. No. The military in this game is used to pacify the protests. As more and more, there's like a kind of a neutral, rebellion leader. a Mon Mothma type who moves around on this board, and wherever she is, if I'm losing workers or you're working workers, they tend to conglomerate there, and neutral protesters will go to those spots as well. And over time, more and more of these spots will get filled up because you can't take care of it. No matter how hard you try, people are going to go hungry sometimes because we got to build this Skybridge for a better future and all that. This can start to cause problems and you can lose points and stuff. But you have an opportunity. If you invest in military and start moving the military towards where all those protesters are conglomerating, you can score points for keeping the protests under control and just kind of getting rid of them. And heck, if I'm controlling your protesters, even better. And as you might imagine, this is an element of the theme that doesn't really resonate with me and Jen. We do not want to be authoritarian leaders squashing, protests under the boot of our military occupation of the land. That doesn't feel great. Now, a lot of players don't care about theme at all. And for them, it's just mechanisms. Hey, there's things accruing based on choices players make, and that's another opportunity for me to score points by making investments that will basically harvest points from those meeples over there. If that's the way you look at it, you might not care. My wife Jen and I, we have a hard time looking at it that way. We just do. And so it kind of casts a pall over, on some level, there's actually interesting socio-political, commentary going on in this game because we are working for a better future. We are having to make sacrifices. We are having to, the people of here and today suffer for, so their children can live a better life. And we're having to make those tough choices. And people aren't, responding well to it. And they are protesting and they are resisting. And okay, we can just, live with that and lose points off it, or we can squash that rebellion and gain points. And yeah, that's all. I don't know if that was the intent of the designers and the developers of this game to make a comment on our real world right now, today, but it's there. And, my wife and I, we just couldn't find ourselves enjoying this game. I was worried about it going in. I talked to some people at Essence saying, look, I'm really worried about this. It's such a minor thing. Don't worry about it. You'll hardly even notice it's there. We notice it's there. Granted, you can just kind of ignore all that and just let suffer the penalties and not. But then you're not playing with peak efficiency. And my wife and I always, when we're playing a Euro, want to play to peak efficiency. And often in this game, that means being an authoritarian leader, doing stuff that we'd rather not do. I'd rather play a game where I can just build things rather than crush dreams. And this game, I get to build stuff, and that stuff is fun. And I get to run an engine, and I get to modify it, and there's a lot of really cool things to recommend here. And if it weren't for one thematic element, I think this would have ranked much higher for both me and Jen. But as it is, it's not something we're going to be keeping, unfortunately. It's not the mechanisms. I think the design is great. I think the world is very cool and an interesting one to explore. Just didn't work for me and Jen for the aforementioned reasons, which is why, sadly, Skybridge comes in at number 13 of the month. Okie doke. Okay, let's talk about number 12 of the month, Xenology. And this one kind of came out of nowhere and really surprised me. I picked it up at Essence Spiel. I have to admit, I like the idea of us being, little green men, gray aliens coming to a planet, which the game never names, but I like to call it Earth, just to study the local population, trying to ensure that they are never spotted. We're just we basically have a prime directive. We do not want to meddle in the affairs of this, primitive alien species. We just want to study their ways and learn their culture and maybe take some specimens back home to score lots of victory points. That's a fun theme. Any theme that is all about the accumulation of knowledge instead of the accumulation of wealth or privilege or prestige, that's an A-OK theme in my book. More of that, board game industry, and less about just all the traditional, hey, let's be greedy and get more stuff for ourselves. Yay! And the gameplay is really great too. It's a sharp worker placement game. Now, I've already done a full run-through of it. You can follow the links down in the show notes to go check out the run-through. So I'll just summarize very quickly. It's a worker placement game where we're moving our workers around on the mothership to engage in different actions like prepare the database for the knowledge we're gathering, or talking to the elders to get bonuses, or prepping to send away missions missions down to the planet, or sending the away missions down, or beaming the away missions back up, and then cataloging all the data and getting bonuses and unlocking powers and scoring points. There's basically that's one half of the game. That's the main board. There's another board that is the planet. When we actually get them down on the planet, our little away teams can move around and explore and get bonuses for discovering stuff. But more importantly, when they find the right location that has the right combination of environment and population, we can beam them up, and they bring the knowledge that we use to complete our research topics that the Council of Elders is assigned to us, and we convert those into points and stuff. And again, I just love everything about the theme here. But also, when we do that, we leave stuff behind on the planet that we have to clean up, because we have to remove all evidence that we were ever on the planet. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this worker placement and worker movement game. There's two things that I really love about it. Three things. One is the theme. Already said how much I love that. Two is the fact that there are a bunch of actions that if I set myself up, my guys are in a queue. I get them into the flying saucer waiting to go down to the planet, but then I got to go do an action to send them down. If there's a bunch of people waiting on the planet, another player might say, hey, even though I'm not going down the planet, I'll send all of you down because you get down where you need to go, and I get a bunch of bonus for helping my fellow players out. Remember, we're a bunch of aliens on the same mothership. We're all on the same team here. We're competing to be the best, but we're all working towards the greater good. And there are several things like that in the game. Like, oh, you left evidence behind? That's going to lose you points at the game? Don't worry. I'll clean that evidence up for you because I happen to be, in the right spot of the mothership to do it. And I'll help you, but I'll also help myself because the game rewards me for helping my opponents. There's a few different ways that works, and it's awesome. I love that. Then the third thing I love, what is the third thing that I love? I love the theme. I love, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm having a brain freeze. The third thing I love is the representation of you in this game. Because in most worker placement games, we're just middle managers. We don't exist. We just issue orders to our workers and they go do stuff. And they're the star of the show. And we just exist in an abstract form that has no real representation on the board. This game, that's not the case. Over the course of the game, we are moving our workers around, getting to the right place at the right time, helping each other, all that stuff I just talked about, accumulating knowledge, converting them into points, yay. But we have cubes. Cubes are the most important resource of the game because they represent my managerial ability to get the job done. Every time I do anything in this game, I spend cubes, and generally I tend to leave them. I lose them to upgrade my research capabilities. When I'm doing research, I lose them to represent the knowledge that I've accrued that will ultimately go into the database archive. And if I've got a bunch of cubes, there's a bunch of stuff I can do. But if I'm really short on cubes, I'm really limited in what I can do. So cube management, which again just represents my ability as a manager to issue orders to everybody, is ebbing and flowing constantly, which is why it's such a big deal. If I had to leave cubes on the planet that represents the evidence my away team left behind, and you clean that up for me, you give me my cubes back and something, I've got my managerial power again. I can go do other things. I can spread myself out. And if I don't have any, I'm spread too thin and I can't do anything until it's kind of like I take another management course so I can get more cubes from the elders so I can do more stuff. I really like that too. A worker placement game that makes me feel like I'm somehow part of the simulation as opposed to just a disembodied hand moving things around is always great. So, those are three wonderful things about the game. My only issue with the game is that as a two-player experience, though my second favorite thing, the helping each other, it definitely happens. Make no mistake. We're just playing with my wife and I, Jen. We look for opportunities to do it. But it doesn't happen as much as it would with more players. If you were to play this as a 4-player game, players are constantly going to be helping each other, constantly putting themselves in situations where they need help from each other. And there's just going to be a lot more. That second pillar of what makes the game great is just less evident when you're playing with 2 players. And I find myself wishing I was playing at a higher player count so that my second favorite thing would happen more often. The other stuff, the managerial presence on the board, the cubes, that's great. The theme, of course, is wonderful. But I'm not quite sure what could have been done to, accelerate or incentivize the players helping each other even more. Because again, if you got twice as many people around on the board, it's just going to happen more often. And if it's the most fun thing you can do in the game, receiving the benefits from other people or being the one to help other people, both of those just feel wonderful, and I want it to happen more often. Don't get me wrong. This is a great game at 2. And there is still enough opportunities for that kind of synergy and interaction between players. I just want more because it's so good. And so I just knock it down a few notches from this, but this is a game I would happily play. We are now into the portion of my monthly countdown. There's always a portion where we switch from, I'm never playing that game again to, boy, I would love to play that game anytime, anywhere. And we are now in that. In fact, actually, the previous one, I've left now behind the, not keeping these games, not interested in playing them anymore, into the, these are fun games I would happily play. And that includes number 12, Xenology. Okie doke. Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff, folks. That's interesting. It has always been the case, in every roundup I've done for years now, that there is, in my head, a moment when I cross over from the, I don't care for these games, don't want them, into the, these games are nice. I would happily play them anytime. And then there's another transition into, these are the games I must own. I've never articulated those before until I think just now. I've always thought about it in my head. Should I be saying that? Should I tell you every roundup when okay, number 12, this is when we're getting into the, I don't even know what we would call it. If anybody even hears me saying this, give me some feedback. I don't know if that's worth doing. I mean, I've been doing roundups the same way for so long. But anyway, I'm sorry. We are getting on to number 11, Flame and Forge. Now, this is one I've done a sponsored run-through for. I believe you can already check out the run-through. I'm pretty sure it's live right now, right? Or is it? Has the campaign launched yet? I am not sure. Regardless, there's a link down in the show notes so you can go watch my run-through and check it out, because this is a very, very cool cooperative game, fantasy adventure game, from the same designer as Keep the Heroes Out, which is a hugely successful, very popular fantasy cooperative game. While this one is radically different than Keep the Heroes Out, which was kind of a reverse dungeon crawl where the player monsters were protecting the dungeon from the heroes. Here, we are hero dwarves trying to take down evil monsters and dragons that are rampaging and destroying an innocent village. And I guess you'd call it a worker placement game. You can see it in action in my run-through, so I won't go into this too much. But basically, every round, depending on where you previously placed a worker, you're moving deeper and deeper into a village that is on fire, trying to fight monsters, trying to forge weapons, and trying to defeat the evil dragon that must be beaten to win the game. But the farther you go, the bigger the threat you have. Every round, you're only going to be able to go so far, and then you're going to pull all your workers back and then start again. And maybe you'll start from a different place and start working in along a different path. This is a game where you have a lot of long-term planning, because, okay, if I start over here, that means I have access to these, and I've cut myself off from all of that. And, oh my gosh, there's a huge fire over there. If somebody doesn't get over there and put that fire out, that section, that mine, is going to be destroyed. And if too many sectors of the town get destroyed, we lose. So you, working in combination with other players, have to cooperatively figure out, right, who's going to take care of that fire? Who's going to go over there to the library and level themselves up? Who's going to get on the catapult and shoot at the dragon, because we've got to take this thing, all that kind of stuff, as we're plotting our different paths as we work our way up. That's 1/3 of the game, is kind of this worker movement and progression game. The second part is there is a deck builder. One of the things you can do as you're moving through the town is convert the resources you're collecting into bigger array of weapons and items that go into your deck of cards. And when you eventually move into fighting a monster, you've got this deck of cards full of basic crap cards and good cards you've put in, and you play a push your luck game where you keep drawing cards, hoping to draw ones that do damage to the monster you're fighting, but that don't do damage to you. These cards usually have, I do 2 damage to the monster, but 3 damage to myself. That's a terrible card. I want to deck build and get that card out of the deck as fast as I can and replace it with ones that have a better return, or cards that do other stuff like give me bonuses if I win the fight or just survive the fight. And so you've got this cool little mini push your luck game that's tied to the worker placement. So those are the things that come together. This really interesting worker placement progression system, this deck building system, and this push your luck mini game that all work in concert to make this a very unique cooperative fantasy experience. And if all that weren't enough, it comes with, I forget, like a dozen different campaign scenarios. Each one is playable on its own and changes the rules for the game and introduces all kinds of new fun stuff. If you liked Keep the Heroes Out, you got to check this out. It's a very different gameplay, although it looks very similar because it's the same artist, designer, Louis Brue, and yeah, this is another great one. But don't take my word for it. Watch me play the game and decide for yourself if it looks like fun. My link is down in the show notes. But I'm here to tell you, Jen and I both very much enjoyed number 11 of the month, Flame and Forge. Okay, moving on to number 10, we have got Dust and Dirt, which I'll be honest, is not a game I should enjoy at all. And yet I was really, really surprised by it in a very pleasant way. Now, I haven't covered it, so instead I'm using a video from Madziora Gra, which I think is Polish for, Madziora Plays. Madziora is playing the game right there. You can see on screen she's doing a nice job of showing off the components. But what is the gameplay? Well, this is all about rally racing. Those kinds of crazy multi-day, multi-night races where you've got the driver and the navigator, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes forever. This is one of those types of races. And so this is a car racing game, a subject that neither my wife nor I would generally touch with a 10-foot pole. We just have zero interest in this subject matter. I mean, we're not the biggest fan of racing games, to be honest, but if they're going to be racing, hey, let's have it be like cool little Cubitos in the game Cubitos, or let's have it be the Race to Mars or something. Just cars racing from point A to point B is just practically an active turnoff for us in terms of theme. But the gameplay here is so good. What is it? Well, first of all, if you just look at this on screen, you'll notice, hey, where's the track? If this is a racing game, where's the track? There is no track. Over on the left, you can see a series of cards that represents different legs of this race. And, you can see, the one you're on at the bottom and the ones that are coming up down the road. And, the whole thing is going to slide down as you get closer and closer to them. So you are in this deck building game, basically replicating the functions of both the driver and the navigator. Let's talk about the navigator first. You got a deck of cards. At the beginning of every round, you're going to have a hand of cards drawn from your deck. You're going to roll some dice, usually 3, but you can get like temporary bonuses to roll more dice. And you are going to put them on your own little player board in spots numbered 1 through 6. If you roll 3 sixes, 3 sixes are going to go in the 6 slot. Or if you put a 1, a 2, and a 4, well, every place you put a die is a place you can activate a card. So after you've seen the dice and you know what columns are going to get activated, including maybe activated multiple times, if you got multiple results of the same number, you are then going to take cards in your hand and you're going to play them to those different slots. And you're like, oh, the card I really want to play? Well, I could put it over here on this 4, but this is a card that won't be at its peak efficiency unless it's in the 6 slot. So, do I not play this and save it for later for when I roll a 6? Or do I use my limited resources, my engineering and my risk resources, to manipulate the dice and force that 4 into a 6 so I can put this in the 6 slot and then activate it? That kind of stuff. Every round, it's going to be a fun little puzzle of figuring out, right, the dice say where I should put these cards. And don't forget, or I didn't say don't forget, but bearing in mind that, at the end of a round, you don't just take all the cards you played and put them in your discard pile. No, they stay on your board, but they slide conveyor belt style 1 space to the right. So if you put a really great card in the 6 slot, it's going to stick around for the next 6 rounds. It's going to go to the 5, to the 4, the 3, the 2, the 1, and you'll have multiple opportunities to activate it. But that means it's also going to be taking up space that other cards could go into that you draw later on. Because maybe you're just playing this just to get something right now, and now it's in the way of cards you draw in a future round, and all that kind of stuff. So, playing these cards and manipulating the dice to be able to activate the cards, and dealing with the realities of, in a couple of turns, this card will be in the perfect spot, so I better get a 2 at that point. That's awesome. And the actions you get off those cards help you both for your navigation job and for your driver job. As the navigator, it's your job to navigate how you are going to figure out the twists and turns of upcoming legs, which means you can basically put your tokens on the upcoming legs, which means when you eventually get there, you'll be able to zip through without having to pay a lot. If you did not pre-navigate because you're too busy doing other stuff, or the cards didn't give you what you want, or you purposely say, okay, I'm not going to navigate right now, I'm going to focus on building up my deck and investing more in my car, or all kinds of stuff you can do with these cards. When you eventually get to that space, you're going to have to pay a lot more to deal with it or suffer consequences as you keep moving further and further along the track. And then at the end of every round, of course, that whole group of cards on the left will slide down and you can see the next one and you can get prepped for them, or you can do other stuff. Now, the other stuff you're doing has to do with the driver. If you can see on those boards in the middle of the screen, that's one player's board and the other player's board. It's kind of hard to see, but you've got a little car on them that moves around from column to column, and there's 2 different rows. The position of the car in the middle of your board represents how much risk you're taking as a driver. How far are you pushing the car past its limits? How much are you going a little dangerously fast in a windy road, etc., etc. And a big part of what you're doing, in addition to prepping for roads and building up your deck to make your car better and all kinds of stuff and mitigating risk, is trying to get that little car on that little grid in the center of your board into the right place. Because sometimes your cards that you're activating with those dice, they fire off really strongly if you're driving risky. Sometimes they're useless unless you're driving safe and you get back towards the center instead of being on the outskirts. The reasons it's risky to be on the outskirts, the far left or the far right columns of that risk grid, is if you're on the far right and then a card makes you push even further to the right. It could be, a turn that comes up. It could be an action you choose on your cards. If it makes you push further and you go into the red, you start taking damage to your car. And then the different functions of your car won't work as well. Your hand size will fall. You won't have as many dice to roll. And worst of all, you'll take risk dice, which means on the next round, not only are you going to roll the dice that activate your cards, you're going to roll these risk dice that, as long as you have them, they force you to suffer consequences until you can get rid of them by getting your car back under control and getting out of the risky area. There's a lot going on here. It is a very clever, to be fair, the reason we like it is, a lot of the racing stuff is abstracted down into, resource management, deck building stuff with really cool activation abilities with this dice system and the conveyor belt system. There could have been actually, this could have been a corporation manufacturing race cars, and it would work. And how hard are you going to push your assembly line and go into risk as opposed to, just try to be efficient? But I could imagine this working in a lot of different Euro circumstances and settings, but it does work really, really well for this rally race thing. Every time you play, you're going to get a different lead racer who gives you special powers that makes you want to race in certain ways and can really affect the overall feel of the game. And it's just really sharp. Very, very impressive. It takes something really special to make me and Jen enjoy a game with a theme we dislike this much, and yet we enjoy the gameplay this much. If it had been a theme we liked more, it probably would have been, this would have been a top 5er of the month. Heavy in the must keep this game because the gameplay is so good. It drops a little bit because we just don't care about, I care even less about racing in circles. If you're going to race, rally racing is more interesting because at least you've got a destination you're going to as opposed to just infinitely going in circles. But either way, we're just not big into sports games in general, and that includes automotive racing. So that drops it a few spots on the monthly ranking, but there is no denying the gameplay here is really special and deserves a lot more attention than it seems that the game is getting right now. I was very impressed, as was my wife, Jen. That is number 10 of the month, Dust and Dirt. Now, let's talk about number 9. Cozy Stickerville, which I was definitely keen to check out because it's from designer Corey Kenichia, and while I don't always, fall in love with all of Corey's designs, I always think every game I've ever played of his is so clever and so full of just brilliant new twists on established genres, established mechanisms that I'm always keen to see what he's got going on. And this time, it's Corey taking on legacy games. I and my wife love, we both are just big fans of legacy games because we love a game where every choice we make has real, lasting, permanent consequence. I mean, heck, I was the lead designer or the co-lead designer on Fable 2, so every choice a consequence. That's a big deal for me, and Jen loves it as well, that you get this permanent, lasting legacy of the choices you made that can't change, because this is a game where from start to finish, you are going to be stickering up the board like you've never stickered before. Put a lot of stickers on a lot of boards, played a lot of legacy games. I've never done as much stickering as here. And it is lovely. It is delightful. And it's truth in advertising. This is a crazy, cozy game. So much so that there would be plenty of folks who would argue this isn't even a game. Because you can't lose. This is more of a shared cooperative experience. And it's really kind of, I'm sure, draws a lot of inspiration from the video game genre that was pioneered by, what was it called? Animal Crossing from Nintendo. But I guess these days there's like a whole industry of cozy, hey, just build a world and live in it. Although, I mean, forget about Animal Crossing, the original Sim City. You couldn't win in the original Sim City. You just built a city and you saw how things evolved. And I mean, that's still a very popular thing. Just build a place and then live in it, explore it, and experience it. That's what this game is. This game, there's never an opportunity for you to get destroyed and lose and have to restart. It's just every choice you make, whether it's a good choice or a bad choice, whether it's a risky choice or a safe choice, your world is going to change, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in very big ways, but you will just continue moving forward. I think some people call it failing forward. Even if you make bad choices and bad stuff happens, that's okay. That's just a new, unique thing that makes your world different than everybody else's, and you'll just keep going forward and having the next experience. There is resource management in the game. You are, harvesting things. There will be things where, okay, we better be smart and stock up for the winter. Or there might be a person who we shoot away, and he warned that he'd come back, and when he does, we better be ready for him. So we should, be prepared for that. But if we spend all these resources now, we can take advantage of this. And so there are game decisions to make as you balance your time and your food and your building materials and your money and decide how best to invest it with all the different opportunities that come up. But no matter what, you will always move forward, and you will always then come to another. Every turn, you make two decisions. Your turn is, in the morning, you draw an event card, you see what it does. Usually they make you make a choice about, do you want to be nice to this person? Do you want to build this thing? Whatever it is. And then the second thing you do on your turn is, from a litany of actions that are going to be unique to you. Whoever plays this game, the choices you make, not only does it change the world, but it changes effectively your worker placement board. You have all these cards at the bottom of your board. On your turn, you can activate one of them. As you can imagine, putting a worker on there to say, I'm activating it. Except you don't need to, because you can activate anything you want. You get to do one thing every turn. Every game, you're going to take 12 turns, because a game represents, a given session represents 1 year in the development of this. And each year, there are 12 turns, 12 events that will happen, 12 choices you will make, and then the world has evolved, and you'll move on to the next chapter. The game itself lasts for 10 chapters. Each game lasts usually about a half an hour, 40 minutes. And it's just a light, relaxed, laid-back experience, and it's lovely. Now, what you're seeing on screen is a run-through that Jen and I filmed, and I should say, by the way, folks, the run-through hasn't gone live yet, but when it does, it's going to be spoiler-free, which may seem like it's impossible. Oh man, I should have... Ooh. You know what? Hey, James, for this section of the video, blur out whenever I put cards on screen. Because I didn't warn people up front. James, by the way, everybody, say hi to James Wood, the most awesome person in all of board game media as far as I'm concerned, because James donates his time every month to me and several other channels, offering his services as a video editor to put stuff like this together. And so I was just making a note to James, hey, here's the trick. Here's how my run-through is not going to have spoilers. When we make these choices, we're not going to tell you the story, we're not going to tell you about the characters, we're just going to say, hey, we've drawn a card, we have have to make a choice now. We freeze the game for a second. We decide amongst ourselves what we're going to do, and then we unfreeze the game and tell people, right, here's what the result is. But we don't spoil the story. We don't spoil the characters, so that you could play the game and still make choices not knowing what is going to happen. That's how I filmed the run-through. But then I also put cards on screen so that if people don't care about spoilers and they want to know, right, what was the decision they made, I briefly put the card on screen and tell people to close their eyes. And for people who don't care, and for people who don't care, I say pause and read it, and you know what the choice was, and you know how we came out. So that was my way to do a spoiler-free run-through of a very spoilery game. So, but I forgot to tell James right up front, hey, if you put any of those cards, if any of the cards on screen show up in this video, you got to blur them out because they shouldn't be spoiled. Anyway, sorry, that's between me and James. My run-through for it will be coming soon. Here's the deal. I'm provisionarily giving the game, I'm putting it in number 9 of the month right now, but Jen and I have only played through about a third of the campaign. Come back for next month's roundup, and I will have played the entire thing. I'll see how it works, because you actually get to play through this game twice. You play 10 chapters, each with 12 turns, and then you've finished your world. It's done. It's unique to you, but the game is over. But then you can flip the board over and play through the same 10 chapters a second time and make different decisions and see how things would have gone a different way and put lots of different stickers out. So I got to see the entire game because we've already started to see some cool stuff happen. I expect more stuff will happen. So I'm going to have to rate it again, but a third of the way into the game, I'm telling you, this is the 9th best game we've played this month. There are 8 games I've enjoyed more, but considering just how chill and laid back and relaxed, I'm a gamer who generally likes agonizing, tough decisions that will make or break you, that will make you have to compromise and sacrifice to achieve your goals. This game is not about that. This game is just about laying back and relaxing, hanging out at the fishing pond or, chatting with the baker in town. It's that kind of, it's in the name. It's cozy. You put stickers all over this town. It's cozy Stickerville. It's truth in advertising, and it's really nice. Jen, it's a nice change of pace. But again, I will revisit this in a future roundup after I've seen the whole thing, so I could tell you if my current love for the game will rise or fall, because legacy games can change in a big, big way the longer you play them. So like I said, just wanted to get that out there. You should be seeing the run through by the time Jen and I have finished the full story as well. Anyway, that was it. Number 9 of the month, Cozy Stickerville. Okay, folks. Next up, we have number 8 on the list. Now, I'm surprised I did not plan this. Number 8 on the list is 108 Outlaws, which is a very cool little puzzly card game that is all about this ancient Chinese epic tale of, I forget the particulars. Actually, the rules go into quite a bit of detail because the designer and developer were huge fans of these legends of, I think it was like the 108 Outlaws that, redeemed themselves by becoming forces of good, but they died and they fought demons. I don't remember at all specifically, but it sounded like a really cool epic story. The most important thing about it is there's 108 outlaws in the story. There are 108 unique cards in this game, and every time you play, you're going to set up a big field of them. All these cards you can draft. Some of them are objective cards. Some of them are low-level living outlaws, and then the other ones are the heavenly ones, if I recall correctly, or maybe the heavenly generals. I forget. But anyway, you've got 3 different tiers of cards. You also have cards in your hand, and on your turn, you can play 4 cards. Now, I should say, over the course of this game, you're only going to play 12 cards. And that may sound like the game's going to be over in a heartbeat, but man, this game gets crunchy fast. Every time you play a card from your hand, you immediately activate some power that it has. They all have something that they get to do, and they might be, hey, draw more cards or manipulate cards, or they don't do much, but they just give you access to symbols that you need for other cards. Some cards will only get played if you tap other cards. So I might have put a card out that I don't really care about, so I can play the one I really want by tapping the first one, and therefore it's taken offline. It effectively doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't give its symbols. It gave up its cavalry skill, so I could get this cavalry general played. grenade, and because they've got a power I really need. So, and then when I play that cavalry general, I do some special ability with them that could set me up for the future. Now, in between playing these 4 cards that I get to play on a turn and looking for synergies between them, while also trying to set collect, because all these cards, again, have these different symbols that represent, infantry and cavalry and naval power and stuff like that. The top row of cards are a bunch of objective cards. These are campaigns that we want these people to go on, and we can't grab those cards unless we've got the right combination of stuff. So a big part of this game is, activating and tapping and untapping and trying to manipulate all your cards. Because usually, once you've tapped a card to use it, it's dead for the rest of the game unless you find a way to untap so you could use it for other stuff. And remember, you're only going to play 12 cards. But every time you play a card, it's an opportunity to revisit what you played before and look for ways to synergize between them and what you're playing in the future and what you could try to grab. Because the other thing you can do every round is, or every turn, is you get to grab... You get 2 points. You can either grab 1 middle strength card or 2 small strength cards. And then, other ones come to replace in there, and all that kind of stuff. So you're getting a steady influx of cards. You're strategizing about the cards you think you can get, but not necessarily want to grab the ones if you won't be able to actually play them because you don't have other ones that will give you the basics. So this game is a never-ending and progressively more and more complex combo building chain of cause and effect. We play these first few. That lets us do some other stuff. These let us, stick around so we can do these things, but eventually we exhaust them so we can do these other things as we go through the act of just playing 12 cards. And that may not sound like much, but this game is brilliant in how complex and challenging it gets, trying to balance, set collecting the right icons you can get for the really big high-scoring cards, or sacrificing those icons so you can get other cards in play so you can achieve the unique special powers you need to do, like upgrading existing cards or untapping them so you've got their icons again so you can do other things. This is a game you could probably play 100 times in a row and get a different experience every single time with that 108 unique cards in the deck, all based on the real 108 Outlaws from, I believe, if I recall correctly, it was Chinese epic lore. This is a sharp, sharp game. It's fun. I would say it's fast, except the longer it goes, it starts getting really puzzly. And you can see me playing on here. I'm actually playing the solo game, which is really great. It's a wonderful competitive game where players are all racing to grab cards first, but it's got really nice solo rules that will make things disappear over time the longer you take to replicate other players. And I'm playing solo here. This is an exclusive I did for backers of the show. Thank you, everybody. Keep Rahdo running. And I had a great time playing this. I had a great time playing it with Jen. Jen, my wife, who is a brilliant gamer, thought, oh my gosh, this game so explodes in complexity with all the different things you're tracking with just playing these 12 cards that she found it to be a little maybe over the top for her taste. But me, it hit a super sweet spot and I really enjoyed it quite a bit, which is why it comes in at number 8 of the month. Highly recommended, 108 Outlaws. Okie doke. Okay, moving on to number 7, we have got Fantasy Realm Greek Legends, which a lot of people are very excited about because Fantasy Realms is a hugely popular, simple, fast-playing little card game that people adore to pieces, and I'm a big fan of as well. This is, I guess now, is this the 5th? You have the original Fantasy Realms, then you had the Fantasy Realms spin-off expansion, then you had the Fantasy, which were both high fantasy games, then there was the Marvel Remix, which was a superhero version of the game, then there was the Star Trek one, which was based on Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Missions, then there was a Red Rising, which was made by a different publisher, but the publisher said, look, I'm incredibly inspired and I want to make my own version of Fantasy Realms that's much bigger and more complex, based on the Red Rising novels, I guess, and now we've got this one, which again is Fantasy Realms, but based in ancient Greece. Now, so I've just told you a history of this game, but not told you anything about the game. Here's how it works. At the beginning of the game, you have a hand of 7 cards. Shuffle up a big old deck of cards. Everybody gets dealt 7. You got 7 cards. What's going to happen is every turn, you are going to draw a card to add to your hand, and then you're going to get rid of a card. So at the beginning of the game, you got 7 cards in your hand. At the end of the game, you got 7 cards in your hand. And those 7 cards at the end of your game, you will score them. And so you are trying to build the perfect hand that will score you the most points, because cards often combo with each other or pay attention to other functions, or cards, it's very important that you don't have certain things, or all kinds of stuff like that. So the whole game is saying, oh look, I've got this card. This card is worth 30 points, but only if I get these other 2 cards. Okay, well, I'll keep a lookout for them, and if I never find those cards on some turn when I have to give something up, maybe I'll give this up, because I'll give up looking for those other cards. Because remember, every turn you draw a card, and then you get rid of a card. Now, here's the deal. When you get rid of cards in Fantasy Realms, they just don't go into a discard pile, they go into a discard area. All cards gotten rid of are out there face up, and on a future turn, a player, when they take a card, they can either draw a blind from the deck, like what you would expect, or they can take any of those discarded cards. And so that's the terror of this game, of any iteration. Every time you say, well, you know what, I just don't need this card at all. Okay, I got to get rid of one of them. I've already taken the one. I'll get rid of that one. I don't think I'd ever score well on it. And then as soon as you put it out there, depending on how many people you're playing with, somebody says, oh my gosh, that's the card I've been waiting for the whole game. Or maybe somebody else puts something out and you say, oh, that's it, I gotta play cool. I don't want anybody to know that my perfect card is out there. I just gotta get it around back to my turn so I can grab that card and add it to my hand. Oh my gosh, this will be amazing. Because you either draw blind or you take stuff that other people have discarded. And thereby, every time you discard a card, you should be paying attention to what do you think your opponents are about. Do you think, because you can't see their hand, but if you remember what cards they took, you could be thinking about, ooh, that here is going for a lot of land cards. I bet you they'd really like this one. Maybe I shouldn't, but I don't want to hold on to it. Maybe I should wait until the last second and only get rid of it at the end of the game so they have less of a chance to grab it. All kinds of stuff like that. That's the crux of Fantasy Realms. The game is over once 10 cards are in the discard pile, and then everybody reveals their hand, scores it. And again, all of these cards have all kinds of fun, intricate, interconnected ways that they score together. So that's every iteration of Fantasy Realms I talked about. So what makes the Greek Legends one different? Well, first of all, it's a different setting, of course. There are different cards. There's some new types of cards. There's this new concept of hero and monster cards that interact in different ways than we've seen. We've seen similar stuff in earlier games, but it's kind of unique. But the most important thing is this game makes a radical change to the core of what Fantasy Realms is. In Fantasy Realms, every turn you got to discard a card, they go out there into that public supply, anybody could grab it. In this game, you do that, or instead, you can put that card not in the discard area, but in your own private discard area that's called the Afterlife. And so, and a card in the Afterlife, it's like it's still part of your hand. So in this game, hey, this is a really great card. I don't want to lose it, but I got to get rid of something. I won't put it back out there as somebody else might take. I'll put it in my Afterlife. So I'll still be able to score it with all the other cards. I've got 7 cards in my hand plus some number of cards in my Afterlife. So that makes sense. Well, you'll never, ever put something in the center, right? Well, first of all, if you do that, then a card is drawn randomly from the deck and it goes into the discard pile. So there's always new stuff coming up. The game is always a fixed length, once 10 cards, or not a fixed length, but it's always kind of the same length because, of course, people are taking stuff out of there, but putting more stuff in there. Anyway, so why would you ever do that? Why would you ever risk giving somebody else something they want? Why not just keep everything? Because every card that goes into the Afterlife loses you 10 points at the end of the game. And so, if negative 70 points, if you put 7 things in the Afterlife, that's a huge deficit to come back from. So you've got to be really careful about what you put in. And now all cards in every version of Fantasy Realm have some base value up at the top, but then they have additional value if they can combo well with other cards or events and stuff like that. So if I've got this really great card that I don't think I'm going to be able to get it to combo with other stuff, right? If I could, it has a base value of 15, but if I could make it combo with the right stuff, it would go from 15 plus 15 more, it'd be a 30-point card. Oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. But I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off because I'm not really focusing on heroes in this game and it needs a hero or whatever. So I can go on ahead and put it in my Afterlife. And here's the deal. I'm going to lose 10 points, but remember, it was a base value of 15. So it goes from being a 15-point card to a 5-point card. So it may not be as bad as all that. If there's a card you don't want to put out there in the public area for anybody to grab, put it in your Afterlife, as long as it at least is going to be a little bit positive, as long as it's, because you're going to get that negative 10, but hey, if it was plus 15, you still come out ahead. But then you end up, who knows what's going to get thrown out into the discard pile because you're just going to put something blind out. Maybe it's something somebody else likes. maybe it's something you like. So here's the deal. This one simple addition radically changed. I mean, I played all these different versions, including Red Rising from a different publisher. They all tweak the Fantasy Realms formula in different ways, but this radically alters it. Because the biggest set of tension, or the biggest source of tension in Fantasy Realms, is every turn you must give up a card. Now, maybe you'll pick it up later. Maybe a card you win, hey, things have changed. I got the matching. I'll go and grab it back if somebody else hasn't grabbed it before I did, whatever. But you always are feeding that, and that's where the terror comes from, knowing you give. But now, that terror kind of goes away. Heck, even if it's, hey, this card is worth 8 points, then, okay, I'm only going to lose 2 points by putting it in my afterlife. That's no big deal. But you still feel some terror, but it's mixed with potential excitement because the card you reveal might be perfect for you. It's like you get to draw 2 cards blind every turn. The one you put in your hand and then the one you put out there if you're putting things in your afterlife. And it just radically changes the feel of the game. And, on some level, it makes the game less tension-filled, more relaxed and laid back, because you never really, you're like, oh, that's fine, okay, it's another negative 10 points, but that's okay, because it's really only negative 3 points. It's not going to be that much of a problem. I'll just keep filling up my afterlife. So on one level, it makes the game easier on you. It's not quite as harsh and punishing that you're constantly giving stuff up that might help your opponents. But at the same time that the developers made this game easier to play and a little bit more forgiving, they also increased the complexity of the card effects through the roof. I have not seen... actually, that's not true. The Star Trek Fantasy Realms had a lot of really intricate interconnectivity between cards, more so than the other stuff. And Greek Legends kind of feels to me a little bit more like Star Trek missions, in that there's, every card has so many icons, and all these icons can interact with a half a dozen other. In the original Fantasy Realms, there's interaction between cards, but it's usually, if you've got a castle, you can put a prince or a princess and a dragon in it. It's really simple stuff. But now, you have a hero who is brave, and brave might come in a dozen different effects on different things. A brave hero might be needed to beat a certain monster. A brave hero might be needed for a certain thing. I've got heroes, but none of them are brave. I don't care about half the cards now because I can't find the brave hero as before. I just needed a hero. Holding out for a hero. But so the interdependency and the interconnectedness, and like kind of this matrix that you have to keep in your head of these 7 cards you've got in your hand, plus, not the 7 cards in your hand, plus say, 3 or 4 or 5 cards that all of these cards also interact with. The more you put in your afterlife, the more complex the puzzle gets of how to mix and match things. And so, at once the game has gotten easier, but on the other hand, it has gotten the most complex it has ever been. And that's pretty cool. And I very much enjoyed it. It's not my favorite. I think the Marvel one is still my favorite because I still think it does the best job storytelling. But I would say this is probably the second best version of the game. Unfortunately, my wife definitely found that extra level of complexity. It went through the roof, and for her, this is getting a bit silly, she said, I think, while we played it. This is ridiculous. How am I supposed to keep track of all this stuff? Well, one way to not worry about the extra complexity, just don't use the afterlife. Like, actually, I'm showing a run-through that my good buddy Roel Gaviola filmed playing two-handed. He showed a whole game from start to finish, did the final scoring and everything. If you watch that, link down in the show notes, you'll see at no point did he ever put anything in the afterlife. Because the more stuff you put in the afterlife, the heavier and more complex the game is getting. Make no mistake about it. The more you have to crunch. And you don't have to. And he just did a full run through not even doing it. Because you can still be very successful, only dabbling slightly in it. Just playing the way Fantasy Realms has always played. This is an optional extra thing you can do. Now, I think your best bet is, you want to be putting a few cards in there. Maybe a lot of cards in there, depending on how they mix up. But the more you put down there, the harder the game gets to keep everything in your brain. And so that is something I would warn you going in. This is, like I said, this is like the 5th iteration of this system. And to me, it is clearly designed for people who have played Fantasy Realms for years and have grown with the game. And they're looking for expert Mensa level Fantasy Realms. And that's what it is. That's what Fantasy Realms Greek Legends offers. And if that sounds good to you, you might want to check it out. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm not saying I'm a genius Fantasy Realms player, but the more complex and puzzly you can make it, the more I enjoy it. And I really enjoyed my time with number 7 of the month, Fantasy Realms Greek Legends. Okay, folks, let's talk about number 6, the Wondrous Museum, which I have filmed a run through. I actually played with Jen. It's an exclusive for backers of the show. But I mean, still, it's on screen now, so you can get a sense of what the game looks like. How does it play? Well, we are running a museum, a kind of fantastical museum full of all kinds of magical oddities and artifacts that are come on these little half-size cards, which I got to admit, I appreciate why they did it, because it keeps the footprint of the game down, but it also makes the font of the game pretty tiny. While I was playing it, I was having to get out my reading glasses to be able to play this. So first of all, know that going in. If you're young, you're not gonna have a problem with it. But if you're getting older, again, you're gonna have to get out the spectacles to read it. But it's worth it because this is a very cool engine building game. Here's the way it works. You start out with just the gate, the entrance to your museum, and a handful of cards. On your turn, most of the time, what you're going to want to do is play another card to your museum. You could either play them from your hand, or there is a public display of cards available as well. They tend to be more expensive, though. Played from your hand is the cheapest card over here. Every card has the cost up in the top left corner. It could be anywhere from like 3 to 30. It's weird. They never actually name their currency. I'm just going to call them bucks. It's museum bucks. It's fantasy bucks. It's I don't know, drachmas, it's, whatever it is. So everything says how much it costs. But if you're going to play them not from your hand, where you just have to pay the base cost of them, but you're going to play them from the public supply, every card is under a +1, +2, or +3, so they get even more expensive. But as those ones get taken, the remainders slide down, get cheaper, new ones come out. You've seen that kind of rolling river of cards team, or you've seen it a lot. Plus, every time you play, there's going to be a collection of cards that are super expensive that you got to save up a lot to get. And there's only a finite number of those, and those are randomly chosen every time you play. It's a different collection. So there's those ones that anybody could grab, first come, first serves with one in your hand. But anyway, most turns, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to play another card. When you do, you put it to the left or the right of your existing cards, right? No slipping stuff in between, no moving cards around once you played them, unless you get powers that let you break that rule. But normally, you play them to the left or the right, and what you're doing is you're building an engine. Because on a turn when you don't have the money to play more cards and get your museum bigger, because by the way, the game can end when somebody makes a 10-card museum, which would be gigantic if it didn't have all these little half cards. But anyway, so you're trying to build up your museum as fast as you can. But on turns, there are no cards out here that I want to play, or maybe I just don't have enough money to play them. What you're going to do instead is everybody has these 5 gems. You pick one, there are 5 colors. You pick one and flip it to activate it, and that means you run your engine. If you pick the purple gem, let's say, because it hasn't been flipped yet, so you flip it over, that means you look at all the cards you've currently played from left to right. Order matters, and therefore placement matters. You activate every card from left to right that has that matching purple rune on it. So if you've been able to play a bunch of cards that all have purple, hey, I get to have a super turn. When I use my purple rune, I get to activate all my cards. But chances are, because these cards, hey, this card has a blue and a red, this one has a purple, yellow, blue, this one has all 5 colors, so it activates every time. So you're making an engine, but when you want to run your engine, usually you can only run certain portions of it. If I do my yellow, I can run my first card and my 4th card and my 6th card. Is that going to work? Because my 4th card really needs me to run my 3rd card to generate the stuff it needs to play. So does it do me any good at all to flip the yellow and run 1, 4, 6, knowing that 4 is a waste of time because I wasn't smart enough to make sure that 3, the thing that creates the resources that 4 needs, they should have had the same color. And maybe they do. They had the matching purple color. But now that that purple is gone, I can't run purple again until I've used almost all. Once you use 4 of your 5 runes, they all reset. And cards also reset on the main board. So I can't run. I use my, and that's perfect. I run all these purples. It's perfect. That's what I've made the engine for. But now I can't get that back until I do 3 more runs. And those are going to be weird mishmashes of cards. Unless I was smart. If I can build an engine that, hey, this is going to do interesting stuff when I pick the yellow and when I pick the blue and when I pick the purple, etc., then you're winning the game. But that's the challenge of this game. Grabbing the right cards at the right time. Maybe not grabbing them to play because they're too expensive to play directly from the table, but just getting them into your hand so you can play them more cheaply later. Or you can just hold on to them until you have enough money accumulated to play them. And then everybody's racing. This is a race game at the end of the day because the game is over once somebody has made that size 10 museum, but that's almost never going to happen. Because if you are building your engine well so that it can do good things no matter what, by the time you've got 5 or 6 cards in your engine and you've still got like another 4 before you could trigger the end of the game, if you build it well, what you have done is you have created 1 or maybe 2 completely broken combos. And I say that totally straight-faced. This is a game where you can get cards together that in any other game you'd say, oh my gosh, this game is broken. Firing that thing and then that thing and then that thing does this? It scores me 10 points and I can just do this over and over again? That's totally broken. That's what this game is all about. You are trying to sculpt the perfect, completely unreasonable, overpowered engine combo that you've ever seen. And everybody is making a completely different one in their own museum. And then, so once you've got 4, maybe you've got 4 cards and it's like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm just going to spend the next few turns just running this thing so I can save up like $30 and then buy that super card. Because once I've got that super card and I add it to this and that becomes my 5th card, every time I run this for the rest of the game, hey, I'm still making money, but now I'm also making 10 points every round as well. Because the game can also end once somebody has a museum that is worth a total of 20 points. So that's the real race. Forget about, the game will be over if players are playing smart well before somebody has a gigantic museum. It's going to be over once somebody generates 20 points. And you do that by finding ridiculously overpowered combos that are better than your opponent's ridiculously overpowered combos. And once you've built it, run it into the ground. Because, you see this every time you play. There's a bit slow going, and then we start getting some stuff, and we get some nice little combos, and we're getting better stuff, and then eventually somebody gets to the point where, stand back, everybody, watch this. Flip, bum, 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 and everybody's, oh my gosh. Okay, it's time for me to turn my combos on as well. But chances are, everybody, if you're playing well, is building something like that. And then it's a race to 20 points, and it's so cool. I really like this one a lot. And Jen, my wife, she really enjoyed it quite a bit too. We are now, by the way, folks, I mentioned earlier, there's always, like in my head, there's 3 sections of a roundup. The games I don't want to own. The games I'm not sure I could own or not, but I would certainly love to play anytime, anywhere. And then we get to the games where, ooh, this is probably a keeper. And when I talk about Wondrous Museums, I'm saying this is probably a keeper. Jen really liked it too. Now there's one issue with it though. It doesn't bother me. I love it. But my wife, she's on the fence, and you might have the same problem with her. This is a game that I expect as more people get their hands on it, a lot of people will play it and will come away from it saying, yeah, I thought it was really good, but it's over just when it starts getting good. Right? I've seen people complain about this kind of thing where, there's a danger that a game can overstay its welcome. It's like, man, when will this game ever end? This game, right when things start reveling up and you get these super powerful combos, once somebody's got a super powerful combo, the game's going to be over in 2 more rounds. Right? Because they're going to run that a couple of times and boom, they're going to trigger the end of the game. And some people might come away from that saying, oh man, I want to play for like another 5 rounds. What the F? Why did you end so soon? It was just getting good. My wife is in that camp. Me, I'm in the, there's a saying in showbiz, leave them wanting more. And that's what this game does. When it's over, because somebody hit that 20 victory point thing, because they built the best. They built maybe not the strongest combo, but they built it the fastest. Or maybe they took a little bit longer, but they built a stronger one and could catch up with somebody that was, making a weaker one and running it more often. But either way, the game is going to be over quick. This is a bit more than a filler length game, but it is not a full length engine builder. It is a fast, snappy game that goes from 0 to hero very quickly. And for me, it's very satisfying. I love that. And, I love leaving them wanting more. But my wife, she wants more, and she doesn't like that. So this is still on the bubble for us. I love it. She wants to love it. And I just say this warning you that some people will be like her, that they will find it frustrating. That, what? How's the game over so quick? I'm just getting going. Well, you should have got going quicker, is the answer, of course. But some people will blame the game rather than their own gameplay. So that's just something you got to know going in. And some people, they say, look, I've made this awesome thing. I want to be able to run it at least 5 more times because it's fun to do. And so that would be a totally valid concern why some people, I think, would respect the game but not enjoy it for themselves. My wife is kind of there. I think it's a phenomenal design. And you can watch me play a solo. By the way, it's a great little solo game too. It's very fun. Oh wait, no, you can't. I did film this as a run through for my backers on Patreon, but I realized afterwards I made a mistake, and so I didn't actually give it to them. So I've just got this as B-roll footage. I'm sorry, I do not have a run through to show you, but I'm sure other people will be running through it sooner or later. I think it's a neat little game. And if my voters want me to, I will film it for the channel, but so far it has not gotten enough votes because, backers of the show get to pick what I film on the channel for full run-throughs. But anyway, I'm just here to say it's lovely. It's fun, it's fast, and it leaves you wanting more. Number 6, Wondrous Museum. The Wondrous Museum. Okay, folks, now we're going to move on to number 5 of the month, the Canals of Windcrest, which I did a sponsored preview of when it was crowdfunding. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, folks. If you watched my run-through of this and you were excited about the game, unfortunately, it has failed to fund. And that breaks my heart because this game is fantastic. And that's saying something because it's pick up and deliver. One of Jen's and my least favorite mechanisms out there. And yet we so enjoyed our time with this game. I really hope publisher First Fish, I imagine they're going to go back and revamp and come up with new price points and and maybe sacrifice on some of the quality because oh man, those floating whale meeples or figurines are so awesome. But hopefully they'll come back even stronger and it will successfully fund the second time. And I don't know why it failed because the previous game in this series, Mistwind, was phenomenal and it was a big success. Also, it was another pick up and deliver game. This is twice now that they have made me in this wonderful fantasy world of a society, of civilization that lives above the clouds and travels around on flying whales. That is the fantasy world here that's beautiful with art from, is it Andrew Bosley? I believe it's art from Andrew Bosley. It looks great, it plays phenomenal, and it makes me and Jen enjoy pick up and deliver. And now this one is pick up and deliver crossed with deck building. The previous one, Mistwind, was pick up and deliver crossed with worker placement. Now it's deck building. And there's a lot to love here. Although actually I've done a full run through. You can check that out. There's a link down in the show notes. I don't have to go into this too detailed, but in a nutshell, we are building up our fleet of flying whales. We're also hiring more and more administrators. And we have this map that we are also building up. We're building buildings in the city, amongst the Canals of Windcrest. And we're building bridges to connect all these different buildings. And then we're moving our supervisors around from building to building. And if I move to your building, you're happy I come to your building because you get bonuses and whatnot. But we do all of this by playing cards from our hand. And I'm sorry, it's not a deck building game. It's a I said deck building. It's card drafting. It's hard keeping all these games in my head, folks. Sorry, this is a Seven Wonders style card drafting game. Where beginning of every round, hey, I get my cards, take one, keep the rest of you, hand them back and forth and all that. But it's Seven Wonders Sushi Go style close hand card drafting mixed with what do you call it? Card crafting, where you take Mylar things and you slip them into the sleeves of the cards, so the cards get modified and change over time and become more powerful. It's got that. It's got great card drafting, and amazingly, it's got fantastic pick up deliver, a mechanism that we don't tend to enjoy. But it's so well done here with the upgrade paths you have, so you can move around really quick. The bonuses you get for smart movement, and also another thing that I really love, the fact that the game comes with an express express mode. So you can play the big, long, epic all-afternoon version, or you can play the more reasonable length game by just jump-starting and skipping that beginning and just starting out much more powerful. There's in addition to delivering goods, you're delivering passengers, you're getting all kinds of powers, and it's just lovely. It looks beautiful. The components were great. I just don't understand how it could have failed. Especially when the previous one, I guess maybe people like worker placement more than they like card drafting and card crafting. Maybe I wouldn't have thought that's the case. But like I said, fingers crossed. Hopefully the First Fish folks are not, will not shy away and will come back stronger than ever, because this game deserves to be played by people. If you love Pick Up and Deliver, this is gonna be one of your favorites. If you don't like Pick Up and Deliver, go watch my run through anyway, because this one might surprise you also. It's lovely. It's the number 5 of the month, The Canals of Windcrest. Okay, folks, we're getting to the best of the best. Number 4 of the month is Rewild, South America. And wow. First of all, this game is about trying to, revitalize ruined, destroyed landscape in South America, clear-cut rainforest and all that, trying to rebuild habitats so that, the flora and fauna can come back and thrive. And hey, in the process of saving the environment, we could also save our planet. Win-win. A subject matter Jen and I absolutely adore. I also love the presentation of this game. It is gobsmackingly gorgeous. It is so bright and colorful. I mean, just look at it. I mean, this is a run-through that Jen and I did this month for backers of the show on Patreon or on YouTube. And we've played this a few times now. And it looks great. It plays great. And here's the deal. It plays fast. Fast. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to keep this game, because my wife says we're keeping this game. I'm on the fence because I have limited shelf space, right? And I've already got Ark Nova, and I've already got Amazonia, Life of Amazonia. And this kind of scratches the same itch, that idea of, nature conservancy and, helping build strong biomes so that animals can flourish. And I've already got other games that do this. So why do I need Rewild South America as well? Well, I'll tell you why my wife would say. First of all, I would agree with her that this stands toe-to-toe with those games. Those other games are best of all time, and this might be up there as well. This is a worthy successor. But here's what it does better than Life of Amazonia or Ark Nova or other games of its ilk. This game is fast. It is all about velocity. Sometimes I talk about how a game goes from 0 to 60. This game goes from 50 to 100 right out of the gate. And you will be, it is so satisfying. This is not a game of slowly building up and accumulating resources and eventually putting the tile on the board that eventually will let us move the animal in, like is so often the case with this. This is a game where every turn you've got a hand of cards. Everybody has the same hand of cards. They're action cards. You're going to play one of them. They have 2 actions. You can do action A or action B, and all of these actions are super powerful. Almost without exception, every one of these cards lets you build and expand your biome in big ways, because this is not a big board to fill up, and it will fill up fast. So every turn, you're going to be putting more stuff out there. And the more stuff you put out, the cheaper it gets to put other stuff. Because when you put stuff adjacent to existing stuff, they intermesh and become dependent on each other. And therefore, that's what happens in real life, and they become cheaper. Rainforest is very expensive to repopulate and reforest, but it's much cheaper if it's surrounded by a bunch of wetlands. That kind of stuff. And this game is full to the brim of, accurately replicating the interdependency of, I think this game probably focuses on that more. All these cards are about, creating viable food chains. We need the base level creatures so the higher level creatures can eat them and the predators can eat the mid-level stuff, and all that business, that works so well in a lot of games, and it does it beautifully here, but this game goes so fast because almost every turn, except for the turn where you're like, okay, all my cards are spent, or I've spent the cards I really need and I need them back, Concordia style, eventually you'll do the whole, okay, this is what I'm going to pull all my cards back into my hand, and I'm just doing one of those turns. But in this game, those turns are great too, because depending on how you've built up, not only do you get your cards back, but you get a huge influx of resources that will let you keep going again. So this game, you are always moving forward at full speed. Even in another game, it would make you feel like, oh, this is the thing where you have to stop and reset. Nope, this game is still going full speed, because every round, you're going to play a card that lets you build something if you've got the resources for it. After you've built something, there are a whole bunch of cards. There's a row of, I think it's 5 general purpose wildlife cards. And then there's another row of 3 predator cards. And then there's another row of 3 plant cards. And every round, after you've played your card and expanded, you are allowed to draft 1 plant card that you can afford, and they all have big cool special powers that change up the world as you populate any of your 3 different biomes, your rainforest, your grasslands, and your scrublands with these different plants that give you other powers and whatnot. Every round, after you play your card, you get 1 plant, you can get 1 predator, and you can get anywhere from 1 to 5 animals if you've got the space for them. And so, as fast as you are rebuilding the ecosystems, you are populating it just as fast. And that's what makes this game special. That plus the really laser focus on trying to accurately recreate the interdependency and the food webs and the circle of life that a proper, well-nourished rainforest creates. And it makes a better world. And that's what you do in this game. And I love it, and Jen really loves it. And who am I kidding? I'm probably going to keep it. I'm just thinking, well, I already have other games that do this, but not games that do it with this speed. I would almost say this velocity, or I could say this ferocity. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's uplifting to play this game. It makes you feel good about the world, knowing that this is actually really happening, that there are people devoting their lives to this. And so, this puts them front and center. I think it's fantastic. It's the 4th best game that Jen and I played this month, Rewild South America. Okay, folks. Let's talk about number 3, Marrakesh, with the Gems and Experts expansion. Now, I've already talked about Marrakesh many times on the channel. I've covered its previous big expansion, the one with the camels and the camel dung. Feld is not done. I don't know if he's ever done as much expansion content for any of his other many games over the years as he has done for Marrakesh, and I am here for it, and so is my wife. Marrakesh is probably in her top 10 of all time. It's in my top 50, I think, of all time, and it keeps getting better with more expansions. So let me tell you what comes with this one. This is a Queen game expansion, which means it's going to be modular. It comes with a bunch of different modules you can mix and match. Some of the modules I love, some I like. There's a couple I could take or leave, quite frankly. But let's talk about the titular ones. Let's talk about the gems. And by the way, nobody's done any video for this. So James is just putting up pictures taken from the Kickstarter page for the different modules. So the gems. As part of setup, we put randomly selected little gem tokens all over the place on all the different sections of our Marrakesh board. On traveling through the desert and working on the mosque and the palace and working your way up the river. And as you succeed with the different things that you were always going to do, when you hit certain thresholds, you grab these gems. And if you can, you place them on this big gem board. And once you've placed one down, you could on the top row, because you're basically making a big necklace, you now could, for every other one, has to extend from the first one you played. And you can start working your way down, and you can work your way out. Every time you complete a row on this big board of, if you get the right color gems from the right spots, then you get points. Whenever you make connections between gems, you get little bonuses between them as well. So this game is drip feeding you additional stuff throughout the game as you achieve certain metrics. And it makes you really want to focus more than ever on a game that's hard to focus, a game that's always been about making you try to do a little bit of everything and finding ways to focus on a few things. Now you want to do it even more because you get gem rewards, but you want to get the right gems with the right colors so they can expand. Because if you get a gem that you cannot extend your network of gems with, you instead can sell it to the market, and then other players can buy it. So this is cool. It's nice. I could play with or without it. I don't think it, it basically becomes a drip feed. It's one thing that's cool about it, though, is it gives you more to do in the market. Because I think a lot of people would agree the market is the least interesting element. It's the least satisfying. It's the most it's there. It's something you need to do, but it's just not as exciting. If there's anything about this expansion that you want to sum it up in one thing, it makes the market better in a lot of different ways. And one of them is the gems. And to me, it's almost less interesting about making the thing and more about the fact that, oh, I could sell my gems, or when I'm at the market, in addition to buying all the artifacts I could normally do, I could buy gems instead that other people have sold, that kind of stuff. So that's, I think, my favorite thing about the gems. Now, let's talk about the experts. This was my wife's favorite thing, and she says, I will never play Marrakesh without experts. Here's how they work. At any given time, there's anywhere from 1 to 5 experts on display that players could draft. And that drafting happens as part of the draft for Keshis. Everybody chooses their Keshis, the little colorful things. You drop them in the tower. Some get stuck in the tower, some come out, and then players take turns grabbing the Keshis that will determine what actions they can do that round. Well, there's a new type of Keshi that goes in that is expert Keshis. And whoever grabs those expert Keshis, whenever they come out of the tower, that gives you the opportunity to pay through the nose, to pay one of everything. 1 water, 1, what are the things? 1 coin and 1, olive. 1 food, 1 water, 1 coin. That's super expensive in this game. That's going to make people go hungry if you can't deal with it. But you pay if you are allowed to hire an expert by getting the expert Keshi before somebody else does, and you can pay for it. You can get one of those experts. Now, what are they? Well, first of all, if you just have them and don't use them, they're worth 5 points. That is not a reason to get them. Instead, you get them, and there are experts for every action of the game. And remember, this is a game with like 12 different actions you can do. 12 different, whether you're focusing on the Nile or exploring the Sahara or whatever it is. So you get you get a couple of experts for the Sahara action. When you do the Sahara action, you can activate the expert, flip it over so it can't be used again, and it lets you do a super Sahara or a super Madrasa or a super river action. They just are super powerful, like game-changingly powerful. So it is worth paying through the nose to get them. But once you've got them, you've got to maneuver yourself so that you can get the most use out of them, because you only get to use them once. And like I said, my wife loves them to pieces. I think they're nice. I'm happy with them. They're nice. I could take or leave them. But now, those are the big 2 names. So let's talk about some of the smaller things. I said there are several things that make the market better. I think I'm going to say my second favorite thing is a new type of tile that when you go to the market and you've gotten all the the right resources and you trade them in to get the lamps or the various and sundry relics and artifacty type things. There's now in that market a new stack that shows, hey, right now if you get the leftmost of these artifacts, you'll get an extra gift with purchase. If you get the most expensive thing or the cheapest thing, you'll get a gift with purchase. And these gifts with purchase are generally just a point and some other little thing. But they make it so exciting because you're like, oh my gosh, the thing I want to buy, if I buy it right now, I'll get that extra thing. And it may not sound like, oh, just get a point and an extra step up the palace. But if you know Marrakesh, 1 more step up the palace, crossing that threshold could make or break you. Or just getting 1 more water droplet so you can go 1 more step on the river, can get you that big triple bonus that will play out for the rest of the round. So it makes buying stuff in the market a much more targeted affair. And I love that. I would not want to play without those gift with purchases because it makes the market more exciting and more dynamic than it's ever been. There's another thing that can go into the market, a new type of good that gives you a nice thing if you get 1 of them and gives you a super thing if you get 2 of them, and there's only 2 of them. That one's okay, but I think it's going to be better for more players because it is often hard to get duplicates of the thing. And if there's only 2 of them in a 2-player game like Jen and I play, it is very likely that one will come out and the other one just will never come out because there's not enough churn in the market that will make the other ones come out. So I don't think that one is particularly, it'd be good at higher player counts, but it's not great at lower player counts. So I'm not excited about that one. Another one I'm not excited about is, hey, if you're getting all these things and you get stuff that is just not very good for you, but you got it because, hey, you're always progressing on everything. And sometimes you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll take this, but I'm not excited about it. Well, don't take it then. Instead, you can take a thing and you can put it for sale on this whole big new board that players can then buy stuff from you. You put the thing on the board, like say it's a new scroll you got from the Madrasa. You put it on the board there. You put your little token on so everybody knows that, oh, it belongs to this person and this person is selling it for this much. And then on another player's turn, they can, oh, give me all that stuff and you can take it because it's perfect for you. I think that's nice. It will, and this is a largely multiplayer solitaire game. This is a great way to introduce interactivity. But again, I don't think it's going to be very interesting with two. If there were three other players around the table and I put something for sale, I know for a fact somebody's going to be desperate for that. But that's not necessarily the case in a two-player game. So I think this one is a bit less interesting at two-player. But at higher player counts, I would imagine. I haven't tried it, but I would imagine it's better. But, okay, two more things. Going back to making the market better. There are a whole new set of, what do you call them? Exchange tiles. When you go to the market, in addition to buying and selling stuff, you can make one exchange. You're out from those little green tiles, right? And in the original game, the exchange tiles were kind of boring. They were like, I said olives earlier, it's dates. Turn a date into 2 water. Whee! That's fun. It's not fun, but it's important. Sometimes, I need that 2 water. I'll give up a date to do it. So they're important, but not exciting. Those have been replaced with new ones that do all kinds of big game-changing things. But instead of giving up coins or water or dates, you're giving up points. Every one of these cards has or sometimes you're giving up keshis. And those are big sacrifices. But big sacrifices can give you big paydays. And so, again, they make the market so much more fun. I don't think I could ever go back to the regular or even the slightly more advanced ones that were on the other side in the original game. These exchange cards destroy what comes before. And now, so that's it. Those are the things that make the market better. There's one other thing I really love too that I don't think I'd want to play without. It's a replacement for the Madrasa. Basically, in the original game, the Madrasa, you basically shuffle up a ton of scroll tiles, you put them in stacks, they're all out there. As soon as somebody grabs one, a new one is revealed. And so you've got 12 stacks of tiles, all of them with radically different options. And it's like, oh my God, how many? Oh, wait, I finally get to being able to buy that one, and wait, is it gone? Somebody else took it? Where did it go? And so what this does is it replaces that idea of constantly changing scrolls. Every time somebody buys it, there it goes, and a new one comes out, and and this instead says, no, when you start playing, these are the 12 scrolls that are available, and there's a randomization factor, but these are, from the beginning in, these are the 12 scrolls that are available. And I like that a lot, because to borrow from deck builders, the original deck builder, Dominion, I think is superior to most deck builders out there, because Dominion says, hey, set up a bunch of depots. These are all the cards that will be available this game. So you can start strategizing in the beginning that, okay, I'm going to want at least a couple of those cards because that's going to combo with that card over there. And so that turns Dominion into a more strategic game where most deck builders say, like Clank, let's say, hey, there's just a bunch of cards and they come and go all the time and you never know what you're going to get. And you just hope, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And it's gone. All right, well, fine. I guess I'm going to build a strategy over that. And, so that kind of deck building is very tactical. I prefer strategic deck building where I know what all my options are and I can plan for it from the beginning. This new Madrasa has fixed scroll choices instead of constantly changing scroll choices. And for me, that makes the game much more strategic and therefore superior. Personally, I think a lot of people would take or leave this or even wonder, why is this change here? I think it makes the game much better because it gives you more control over your destiny and you can do more long-term planning. And that's probably my favorite thing. My second favorite thing is probably the exchanges, and my third is those gift with that's not what they're called, but the gift with purchase tiles. I love those things. Jen loves the experts, so there's a lot to love here. But we both agree there are elements in this expansion we would never want to play without. So I guess that makes it a must-have expansion. Number 3, Marrakesh, Gems, and Experts. All right. Okay, number 2 on our list, I don't even know if I have to spend much time talking about it, it's Galactic Cruise. Yes, folks, I have finally played Galactic Cruise. Longtime fans of the show might remember, a couple of years ago when it was the original cruise was crowdfunding, I was in Mexico at the time, on the road with my wife Jen, and while I wanted to cover it for the channel, we couldn't get it south of the border, so Shay stepped up and did a phenomenal run-through of the original prototype. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it looked great. And I thought, boy, I'm bummed I couldn't get to cover that one. C'est la vie. Galactic Cruise finally came out in 2025, and it made a lot of top 10 of the year lists. A bunch of them. It didn't make mine. But I don't blame anybody for putting it on there. Because Galactic Cruise, the base game, is a wonderful worker placement game. I think it deserves to be in the upper pantheon of greatest worker placement games of all time. It is so smart. What we are doing is we are middle managers in a Galactic Cruise ship building company, and we're trying to build spaceships, and we're trying to book passage, and we're trying to get passengers and go for an intergalactic cruise on our big galactic cruise ships. And we're doing it through worker placement, where it's very reminiscent of Vita Lasarda's Gallerist in that there are multiple actions on a worker placement spot, and you go there, you get to do both those actions, you get to combo stuff, but it adds on that by saying, hey, we can make player-specific connections between worker placement spots so that when I go there, I get these actions or these other actions, and you can create networks and all kinds of stuff, and players can get special powers that I've got this special power, you can pay me to use my special power rather than having to develop it for yourself. There's so many wonderful things. It's a lovely thematic game. There's tons of replayability. So why is it not in my personal top 10 of the year when it's so many others? One reason. This is an epic all day long game, right? It just, for me and Jen, this is like a 5+ hour game as a 2-player game. And we've played it a few times now, and I can't imagine we'd ever get it much below 4 hours because or I should say my wife, is a very slow analysis paralysis player, and it's an epic length game. I would say, I'm not sure, I would say it's longer than Ark Nova in its basic form. Now here's the deal. The original, I played Galactic Cruise, I was really excited about it, but like, oh, this is too long for us. I'm probably not going to keep it. Then the publisher say, well, hey, we've got our 3rd expansion coming out, and you've got these 2 expansions. Would you be willing in doing another run through of the game for the channel to try it out with the expansions? And I'm like, yes, I would. And so I did. What you're looking at right now is not Shay's run through of the prototype, it's my run through of the final version with the accommodations and advancements expansions. And here's the deal, folks. These expansions are absolutely must-have. Because, to a large part, they fix my problem with the game. Because the original game had a way to speed it up. You could basically cut by, probably about 20% the overall length of the game by saying, oh, we just need to finish fewer milestones and or launches to trigger the end of the game, because some of them have already been pre-triggered as part of setup. And now that works. For me and Jen, it turns a 5-hour game into probably a 3-hour game if we play that accelerated version. But when we tried that, I found it very frustrating because it kind of changed the overall vibe of the game. It basically made going for fewer big epic ships a less viable strategy, and kind of favored make more ships that go faster and just go fast as you can because the game is suddenly shorter. I'm like, oh, I just don't know how I feel about that. And so I was a bit bummed about it. But here's the deal. Both of the expansions in different ways supplement the game so that you can go faster than ever before. One of them, I can't remember because they're named accommodations and advancements. I can't remember which one is which. And they both add a bunch of stuff, but both of them have one thing that's really important. And I remember which one's which. One of them introduces hey, as part of setup, we get these extra starting resources that's like, okay, we're jumping past the first 5 turns of the game. The first 5 turns of the game, you've already had them because we were just giving you all this extra stuff right at the beginning of the game. I'm like, yes, because now if I'm going to play the accelerated version that before was frustrating, as if it didn't feel like I could get as much stuff done, now I can, because I'm starting with a lot more resources. That is hugely important and majorly game-changing, and I would not want to play without that, because I also would not want to play Galactic Cruise if it wasn't played in the Express mode. But now the Express mode becomes more viable, both because of these extra, it's kind of like a Terraforming Mars Prelude thing, but different. But there's that, and then the other thing, and again, I don't remember which one it is. I think one of these things is in both of the expansions. But anyway, the other thing that it adds is, remember I was saying there's worker placement spots, right? And you go there, you get to do 2 actions. We can now put a unique combination of additional actions you get to do. So now when you go to a worker placement spot, there's 3 actions. There's the one you get to do guaranteed by going there, and then the 2 other ones, and you can pick, right, how am I going to do these other ones? So every worker placement spot becomes more powerful, which again, speeds up the game and makes the Express game more satisfying. and I wouldn't want to play without them. Now, I should say, the way these little things are supposed to work is when you first put them out, they haven't been activated yet. And they won't be activated until enough gears have been installed in the workplace. So they don't get activated until about halfway through the game. And then they speed the game up for that second half. And that's great. But the rules say if you want, you can have them turned on from the beginning. And I highly recommend that. Anything to make this game go from 0 to 60 faster. Because if you're playing like I do, with a third of the game cut out, you need to get to 60 faster so you can have a full experience. And by the same token, that same idea is brought up, I said earlier, there's these technologies you can buy, and then you can use them and other people can pay you to use them. Those things now have the ability to get stronger the more they get used, which is nice. I get that if you want to play an epic all-day game. But more importantly, you can start them out at maximum power, and they're more powerful than they've ever been before. So getting those things, once again, speeds up the game. And so that's why accommodations and advancements are absolute necessities. They add a bunch of other stuff. They add different types of modules you can build with your ships, and they add new cards. And those are all nice, but I could take or leave all of them. The important thing is it finally, for me, fixes the game, because now we can play it in the express mode without feeling like we're sacrificing the full breadth and depth of the simulation. So they asked me, hey, you want to cover the game with these things? I said, yeah, but it's already on the channel. I said, oh, that's fine. We sponsor the preview. We'll sponsor this one as well. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, though. I already have the channel. Well, you know what they said? We are bringing out our third expansion, Achievements. And now, unfortunately, they were not able to get me the Achievements module. That's okay. I'd love to try that as well. But Achievements looks awesome because it turns this into a campaign game where you can play over successive games and unlock new features that change the rules of the game. And I'm very excited about that. Very excited about those. But I haven't gotten my hands to play them yet. But the reason I ultimately filmed another run-through was to show these things in action and also to announce when the pre-orders go up so that everybody can order Achievements. That's why my run-through is, as of today, when I'm filming this, it's not up. By the time you see this roundup, my full run-through will probably already be available because the third expansion, the Achievements module, will have come out as well. And if it's anywhere near as good as the other two expansions were, as game improving as those were, well, I am very excited to give it a go. My only problem with Galactic Cruise now is I wish it had not come with all those crazy fancy inserts. Because the reality is, if it hadn't, the entirety of Galactic Cruise could have fit into a Ticket to Ride size box, and it wouldn't take up so much space on my shelves. That is the only thing about Galactic Cruise I do not like now. It's still a little bit on the long side, but it's gone now more to Arc Nova length, which is still a bit long for me and Jen, but it is a reasonable ask, and it wouldn't work without these expansions. So, all this combined, that is why this comes in at my number 2 of the month. And now that I'm thinking about it, I spent way too much time talking about this, since I'm going to have a run-through up for this any day now. And so I apologize. But anyway, folks, that's my number 2 of the month, Galactic Cruise, with accommodations and advancements. And now, here we are, folks. My number 1 game of the month for January 2026 happens to now be my number 1 game for all of 2025, it's Railway Boom. And believe me, no one is more surprised than me how much I love this game. I apologized in my run-through of this, which I've already posted, link down in the show notes if you want to see more. I apologize to the developers, the designers, the artists, everybody. I should have played this last year. I'd heard nothing but great things from all kinds of outlets, but I looked at it and thought, boy, this is not for me. I am not going to enjoy this. I'll respect it, I'll like it, but I'm just not for me. And finally, the voters of my channel said, we're done waiting for you to play this game, Rahdo. We're going to make you play it and do a run through. And I'm glad they did, because it turns out everybody else was right. This is the best game of 2025. This is the greatest train-themed board game of all time for my tastes. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's fast. It's basically over 4 years of rounds of gameplay, or 4 years of gameplay. You're going to do 4 auctions a year, so that's 16 auctions. The trick of it is, every auction you engage in to get first dibs on all kinds of upgrades and extra locomotives and claiming land to build your routes and all the train type stuff you would ever train. Every time you engage in one of these auctions and you're desperate to get first, you are bidding with items that you need to actually use the stuff you're bidding on. Hey, I would like to build a lot of track, and oh my gosh, I want to win the auction so I can be the first to do it because that's a really great card that's there. But how do I win it? By spending a lot of money, because you need to spend money to get the new stations, and then you can expand from them. And say, hey, I got it. I paid through the nose. I paid $6. That's so expensive. Now I can put it there, and I don't have enough money to actually expand. And what do I have to do? I have to start scavenging from other elements of my operation because there's 4 resources for the 4 different types of auction. And if I just paid through the nose for an auction, now I can't use the thing I won because I spent all my money to get it. Well, I can convert all my other stuff from my other auctions 2 to 1 into what I need. And that balancing act is wonderful. I do not dislike trains, but I no longer like them. It's unlike, what was I talking about earlier? Dust and Dirt. Dust and Dirt is a theme that actually is a turnoff for me and Jen. But we like that in spite. Railroads, it's not a turn off, but it's definitely not a turn on. But the gameplay is so good here. It is so brilliant. It's just the best game of the month. It's the best game of 2025. And go check out my run through if you want to see more. That's all there is to say. Oh my goodness, folks. We are at the end of the list. Why does it take me so long? Every time I always ask, I say, folks, I could do this much quicker. I could just give them a couple sentences a piece. I could put a stopwatch in front of me and only talk for a minute, but you always say you want long ones. So I just went long on a whole bunch of games and told you why I loved some of them, liked other ones, and some of them just weren't for me and Jen. Hopefully that's of use to you. In closing, I would like to once again, as always, say thank you to James Wood of That Board Game Show. Folks, show that man some love. Give him some likes, some subscribes, and some hypes. Apparently that's the new thing. You can hype videos. Go hype up James. Or hype me, or whatever you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But hopefully you enjoyed this run through. And if you did, it was all thanks to James. And my wife, Jen. And Paulo and everybody else here at the channel. But anyway, folks, I'm exhausted. That was a long one. And we will see you again next month. And now is the time where you can click. Look at all these clickable things. You see, there's that one over there. What do I put? I think one of them I know is a list of all my run-throughs, right? One of them is a list of all the other roundups. If you like that one, you should go watch some more of them. And I forget what the other ones are. Oh, my top 100, I think, is one of these. Have you